It's another week of TCP, another week of drama. It hasn't really ended. It's just ongoing, continuing forever. It's episode 257 of the Tactical Crouch podcast, and some pretty major news going on in the last 48, 72 hours. The first of which is that TenZ has been secretly engaged for 8 months. Discuss.
Yeah, that was unreal. Good. Like, I didn't know.
Happy for him.
See, I'm a millennial in a socioeconomic situation where getting married this early isn't feasible. So I didn't know that was allowed. I had to check. I had to realize, oh shit, it's allowed to be married in your early 20s? Damn. I guess he's a millionaire, so that makes sense.
Yeah, he's got enough money to get married.
True.
Pretty crazy. And other drama that happened, iLLeY just got dropped from Optic Texas. Discuss.
Ooh.
Damn.
It's pretty rough. I know it was not the season that Optic Texas wanted. They still won Major 1, to be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think Scump will stay though. I think they're gonna keep Scump and rebuild around Scump and Dashy, maybe. What do you guys think?
What I think is, I thought Scump was retired. That's how much I know about the CDL.
Bro,
Yeah, that's
here's the difference.
PogChamp.
Here's the difference between the CDL and OWL. Is in Overwatch League, the drama will kind of happen and everyone will say nothing about it, and then to know what happened in the drama, somebody like Halo has to post, or you have to post, or apparently Ice has to post, or whatever it is, somebody has to post. And then like people would discuss on Reddit and Twitter, and no one that actually knows anything will actually come forward, and then that's it. In the Call of Duty League, what happens is Crim6 gets dropped from NYSL. Paulie is a restricted free agent, which means he's benched for next year. And then there's all this drama surrounding their beef with Hydra, and Hydra like holding grudges against Crim6. And then how it goes down is after the roster news comes out, they all jump on one big fat podcast together, and the two players that are beefing, Hydra and Crim6, go off at each other on the podcast live, and they just fucking hash it out right then and there. And they just tell their sides. It's like, bro, it's the Maury Povich show live. That's the difference, you know.
People love that.
Part of me wishes we could add that. Part of me wishes like, dude, if there's some shit going down, everyone should just jump on. We should all just like the parties involved, just come out and just like say what they got to say, boom, and get it out there. Everything is so cloak and dagger in the Overwatch League. You feel that? It's quite like everything's like mad secretive all the time. No one like there's no official word on anything.
I mean, I think we had like
the official word is always like PRified, like mega PRified. And never like the people actually involved just saying what they got to say.
Look, my experience reporting on this scene is basically like, you know how people flamed me, like going like, wait, the budget tier list, like who are the sources? Why are you not naming the specific sources? Like, can I be a source?
Such a funny comment.
And I'm just going like, do you guys understand how this scene operates? I'm basically like, when I'm asking for that information, like, my sources retract like a snail's eye back into their body. And I have to wait and go like, oh, little snail, come on, give me that. And like, I'll make sure that it's all anonymous and everything. Because nobody would commit, right? Like, there's no drama entity in there.
The people that make those comments are 13-year-olds who don't understand how journalism works.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, just leak your sources, Omega lol. Yeah, that seems really good.
Yeah. No, I like if I have the trade-off of getting more insider knowledge out but not disclosing the source, then I take that trade-off every time, right? And I think given how nobody, and this actually surprised me, nobody had anything to say about the budget tier list, and also how like some people have come forward and said that it is pretty accurate. I think Brad was one of them. Then like I feel like you can infer that I probably asked the right people. So yeah, I don't know. Like,
All right. Here's another difference maker. In Overwatch League, after years of I don't even know where this person went. To be fair, they had no reason to continue having a presence, and that's fine. No blame on them for that. But Kate, former GM of the Washington Justice, comes out of I don't know, again wherever she's been. Not that that matters, but she's been gone a long time, and she just writes on CompOW's like, yeah, I'm paraphrasing it. Cannot confirm or deny that my non-disparaging agreement means I can't tell you anything. Just comes out and says that.
Yeah.
Despite having not posted for like literal years.
Honestly,
again,
that if she signed a non-disparaging agreement, that is already.
So here's the comparison I'm gonna make. But then in the Call of Duty League, Crim6 gets dropped. Hydra's instantly like, yeah, so Crim was like kind of racist towards me, and then Crim's like, no, dude, like that's not even how it went down. Like this is what I said. Like it wasn't that way. Like, you know, and this X, Y, and Z, and Clayster can back me up and all this kind of stuff, and you know, and also like, yeah, you're saying that shit about me, but also you were getting special treatment from my head coach for like days off and all this, and they were just fucking going at it. Like all the secrets are just spilled.
Is it serious?
All the juice has been tipped.
Are they really serious about all of their thing, or is it a little bit of the WWE like showmanship going on?
No, this is real. This is real.
Okay.
They don't have to be the WWE because it's literally real life. They don't have to make it up. It's better than things. It's better than a script you could write. That's why their esports still has 20 sponsors. The funniest comment I read this week was like, oh yeah, man, like, yeah, I don't think the Overwatch League is going to get any sponsors back until Bobby Kotick leaves. This motherfucker doesn't realize that our sister league, the Call of Duty League, is also an Activision Blizzard product where Bobby Kotick sits as the president CEO. Like, come on, fellas. These people, I can't believe these people. Oh my God. Brother, just look at the other esport that's connected to our, like, parent company.
Yeah.
And the fact that they have like all these different sponsors, their viewership's only slightly better than ours, and they have all these sponsors. Yeah, I don't think that was a difference maker, fella. I don't think that was a difference maker at all.
No.
Just putting it out there. No, but I do enjoy the clarity of all the stuff that went down in the CDL. And it's like it's all kind of petty as well, which is like fine. Because there's nothing like super major. It's all like reasonably petty, like player beef, which is kind of cool. I do enjoy that. Whereas like,
yeah.
Whereas we have player beef in the Overwatch League, just that no one knows about it. Isamoji. The closest we had like publicly was Crimzo Decay, and even that like they got squashed mega quickly. You know.
Yeah,
it's a little harder when one of them doesn't speak the other one's language, right? So it's like they can't really go at it.
Yeah.
But
I think it's
that
slowly coming, right? We're slowly like it's not real
maybe some
beef,
of the
but
AT guys,
shit talking.
maybe some of the AT guys could get into it.
Yeah, I think
I don't know.
the first stage is to start shit talking, and then for someone to catch feelings and like take it too seriously, and that's where we strike.
Dude, that could have been Hardy and Gator. That could have been Hardy. So close, man.
Yes.
Come on, guys. Sadly, we do have to amp it up a little bit, WWE style. We're the WWE fake esport here, apparently. So we have to kind of fake it a little bit, fake it to make it. Some drama.
I think the end game is to have these two guys box. That's how it works now, right?
I joked, didn't I? Joke about that. It's like, yeah, man. Gator and Hardy having their it was Atlanta. It was the Atlanta versus London match during Mid-Season Madness on broadcast. I said like, yeah, we'll get in Hardy. Hardy's going to be out of this map now, so Gator and Hardy will have their charity boxing match behind the scenes live in Hawaii, pay-per-view, of course. So, yeah. The CDL comparison would be the Decay Crimzo drama, except instead of it turning into like nothing, they both hop on a podcast together and fucking hash it out and go at each other on the podcast live. That's content. Yeah. And that literally just happened in the CDL, like within the last 72 hours between Crim6 and Hydra.
Yeah. No, like I feel like it's also there is a lot of behind the scenes drama between players, of course, as well. But it always feels like in the Overwatch League it never gets this serious, you know, or never is wrong actually. That let me not say this, but I feel like especially if you're a teammate with someone, it's almost assumed that there's going to be a level of friction in order to, you know, get
I mean,
get ahead.
It's just very well hidden in the Overwatch League. I mean, we've literally had some altercations, fellas, that people have never known about. Maybe we'll never know about, just because it's that kind of stuff has never come to light. Probably shouldn't ever come. I'm baiting a little bit here, or am I? Maybe I'm, you know, maybe I'm just trying to. I don't know. I'm just gonna backpedal on that a little bit, or maybe I'm not. Maybe players really did get into something. You'll never find out, and I'm gonna be an annoying motherfucker and just do that because it's not really my story to tell. But I'm glad I've heard about it.
You just want to moderate the eventual episode.
I will be the boxing referee. I'm gonna be the boxing referee when whatever two players will finally want to go at it. In the car park, obviously, we're gonna spray paint a square, and two players, bare knuckle because we can't afford the gloves, and I'm gonna be in the middle of that. Hopefully, you know, by the time I finally get to land, I can referee this celebrity Overwatch League player beef boxing match. I want to do.
I feel like you could do everything. You know, you could be the Michael Buffer. You could be announcing them. Then you.
True.
Yeah,
I'll commentate while refereeing at the same time.
And you could also be the numbers girl.
Oh hell yes! I'll do it all. I will set it up, and I will take at least 50% of the pay-per-view. Just me.
Nice.
Because I'm doing most.
You
of the work.
would also deserve it. Yes.
Yep. No, our drama is unfortunately a lot more at the macro level, the high level. Wait a minute, I think Dashy just got dropped as well. Hang on. Compared to the CDL stuff, which seems to all be like really. Oh shit, they did. Holy shit, they lost. Dude, Dashy is like an MVP. People getting annoyed that I'm talking about Call of Duty League, but like, guys, you know. Gotta be following the successful esports out there.
Okay, give us an analogy. Like, has Chengdu just dropped Leaf by comparison, or
Chengdu just dropped? No, this is more like in a way, yeah. This year maybe. And this year, like a team. No, I don't know. This would be like a This would be like Atlanta dropping Hawk.
Okay.
Like a pretty integral player that like a team that is like pretty fucking competitive, but not like the best team, right? Like a very competitive team that's not the #1 team, where it just dropped like probably like one of their most integral players.
So like last year, if Glads had dropped Kevstar or something like that.
Like. Kind of like, actually, it's not that different from Atlanta dropping Pelican in the offseason last year.
Okay.
I would probably equate it to that.
Okay. Fair.
Your Overwatch says, amazes me that no one in OWL can suggest common sense solutions to meta breaking new content. Forget hero bands draft. Disable Jungle Queen until she is balanced. This view, they must grind through a horrible format for an entire tournament is silly. Other games make tough decisions. And we're not even going to discuss that. So let's get into it. Episode 257, brought to you by Avila Vista Baby, Battlecrat, Refine Bean, Bronzebot Buhau, Chari, Prophet Picasso, Chris R34444, Cash67, Lolshin, Porkchop Samick, Rick Zane, Follow on Smooth Nuts, Your Misery with YouTube members, Ice Angelic, William Jesse, Vishman, Fileman 6, 8K, and Chris R. I'm planning on just being annoying today because I'm in a weird mood. Where I don't know. I don't know what the future of the league is in the long distance. I saw that Valorant has a 6-year plan minimum for VCT. I'm like, shit, dude. I don't know what that feels like. 6 years. Yeah. That'd be nice.
Dude, like, who has a 6 year?
Feels pretty good.
Do you have a 6-year life plan? Does anyone here have a 6-year life plan? No, Eric, you don't count.
My 6-year life plan is hopefully I'm still alive. And you think I'm joking and trying to be morbid, but I'm not even. I'm actually legitimately serious. Legitimately serious.
I mean, we witnessed your McDonald's consumption, yeah.
I don't know because, like, you know, I've problems. I've mental issues. You know, I'm depressed most days of the week. I hope I make it. I hope I make it to 6 years. So yeah,
You too.
Of course.
hopefully.
That's when we're back to the big arenas. You know.
That'll keep me going. I need a light at the end of the tunnel to keep me going. To like something for me to strive towards. You know.
Yeah, I think you need to get that off that dark
So,
island.
Speaking of things that make you depressed, let's talk about the Jacob Wolf report. Actually, let's talk about my relationship to this report as well, because there was a little bit of back and forth that went on here. So here's the backstory. Iced, who is a former, might have even been AT player, former Odyssey, AT, Altiera Dark Mode, Maryville player, current content creator. Actually, might still be playing. Actually, I think he did play. I actually did play on Odyssey recently. Anyway, posted something on his Twitter that says, I'm just going to read it out. Here we go. First, I have to find it. For everyone confused why everything is happening now, seemingly all at once, it's because there was an Odin's meeting between our teams and the league, and everything happening now is a reaction to that meeting. Okay, I think I worded this in a confusing way for some people. It was a meeting between owners and shareholders of the teams, not like players or coaches. It was not like a meeting with the whole league. Funny enough, it absolutely was not a meeting of the whole league. Anyway, so there was an owners meeting that happened recently. What was the date? I have to look at the Wolf.
The 10th.
August the 10th. And the unique thing that happened during this owners meeting, as reported by Jacob Wolf, is that Bobby Kotick was present and leading the meeting. And they discussed the financial stuff. No one actually really has a solid report on what exactly went down in the meeting. My relationship to this entire discussion is that I responded to Iced and it actually wasn't a response to Iced. I actually made it clear in my specific tweets, quote retweeting him, that it wasn't specifically me calling him out as much as I was trying to just say to the general Overwatch audience, like, hey, the mass hysteria is a little bit unfounded here, given that I am fully aware and am in solidarity with the fact that the meeting did happen. No one is denying that there was a meeting. There's some people that seem to be confused, like, oh, but Avril and Costa said there was no meeting. No, no one said that. I have fully admitted. Check my fucking Twitter. It's there. I know there was a meeting. There was a meeting. We are all aware there was a meeting. No one actually fucking knows what happened to me. I don't know what happened in the meeting.
Yeah.
But I know what didn't happen in the meeting. And my entire argument, my entire position on this whole debacle is that there seems to be a lot of people where, because how the timing of all happening and the report and the Ice tweet and then the players being dropped and all this kind of stuff all happening together, and this is where you do have to see Ice take a little bit of responsibility as well, where he specifically said, like, oh yeah, it's all happening. For everyone confused why it's all happening now, it's because there was a notice meeting. It's like, I don't know that those two things are completely correlated, because as far as I'm aware, if you look at the actual timelines, they're not correlated. Like, just because they both happen within a certain time frame of each other doesn't mean this is exactly like, this is the causation. It's like the people who were convinced that, like, oh yeah, well, Paris lost to Vancouver, so the entire Paris all dropped their players because they lost to Vancouver. It's like, or they've been working on the roster moves for fucking ages. You think Paris can drop their entire team and then pick up 4 new players like overnight? Excuse me? Yeah. You fucking dumb?
I can also tell you, like, my investigation of the justice situation started before the owners meeting.
Yep. This shit was already underway. Like, this is what I'm saying. It's like, it's not connected. It doesn't mean that they didn't discuss financial details. Of course they would have talked about that, because that's always part of the owners meeting. They always talk about financials.
Especially if Bobby Kotick is
major
there,
topic. Yeah. So, like, I'm not saying they didn't talk about financials there. Yeah, they probably did talk about the fact that, Mark Ain's probably in that meeting saying, like, yeah, this shit ain't worth it for me. I'm going to cut costs. And Bobby's like, fucking fair enough. And they're talking out the financials. Like, that all probably went down. Probably. I wasn't in the room. They probably went down. But the difference is people acting like the teams walked out of that meeting and decided to fucking shed weight. It's like, no, they were already doing that before the meeting.
Yeah.
The meeting isn't the fucking cause. They were already doing that before the meeting. That's what we're all saying.
Yeah, no, the roster trading deadline. I mean, those emails went out. Like that deadline was not something that was predetermined, as my understanding goes, and this could be wrong. Okay, so grain of salt, but I think this is a more recent setting than like the start of the season. I personally wasn't aware of a roster deadline being set at the start of the season. I think emails recently went out as to define what that entailed. So this is much more likely, because keep in mind, if you currently are sitting on an asset that you want to sell for a buyout, this is your last chance, right? Like after the deadline, the value your players still have, you could sell them, but they couldn't play, and therefore like the buyout would have to tank, right? Like necessarily. So this is much more likely to facilitate the current situation. Also keep in mind, like some people had some time to think during the break. A lot of the deals, like you have the break, you start sourcing the market for viable replacements for your current strategy or for alternative strategies, and then you execute. It takes a while, right? And I think that is much more likely to have facilitated this. Now, I think, not to open the absolute can of worms, and one thing that I realized is sometimes, like I still, okay, let me talk to the Cloud Goblins directly. You can still get the same amount of social credit by just saying there has been an owners meeting. You don't need to connect the dots. You don't need to share half-truths. You can just like take a smaller bite, and because everyone wants to find out secret stuff, that gives you the same benefit. And you actually also get to be correct, right? So the thing that I also want to do is, like, if I get information, I don't need the absolute full picture in the article. Of course, I should have an idea, because like I don't want to do damage. I want to understand how the things work. If I am not 100% on a fact, I'll probably just drop that part from the story and only put the stuff in that I know for sure is happening. And I'm still getting the same amount of attention, the same amount of social credit or whatever, right? Like, I don't know. I'm mostly speaking to the people and trying to find out why they're doing what they're doing, right? And I think that's probably the driving force there. I mean, to a certain degree, it would be, a lie if I didn't say that it's also true for me. So I think it's just fair for us to take smaller bites of the things that we know for sure, and then the rest just infer. Like, we're all making the pattern recognition inferences anyway, right? Like, we can do that ourselves, but it gets dangerous when we, say too much.
Yeah, I mean, there's things are a secret for a reason, for the most part. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing to. I mean, my only other issue is people making up shit that they think happened in this meeting that absolutely did not happen. Stuff like, oh, the Overwatch's release must be delayed. It's like, where did you get that from?
Yeah,
like,
that's a weird one.
Who said that? Who the fuck said that? Like, sources, please? Never. I've never fucking heard that.
Yeah.
Nope. The amount of people working on Overwatch right now, I got a glimpse recently. I got a glimpse into like how much staff, how many like developers are currently on the Overwatch 2 project. It's a fucking massive. There's like a shitload of people on the Overwatch 2 project. I'd be surprised if they didn't make the deadline, because they are heavily committed towards it. They've literally made sales at this point through the Watchpoint pack, specifically towards a specific release date. I don't know. There's too much going on and too much stake at launching that I'm convinced at this point, even if they did make a fuck up and something went wrong, they would sooner just release it with that thing wrong, unless it's like too major to, like it would have to be game breaking for them to delay. Otherwise, if it's like anything that's not game breaking and it's just like, whatever, we'll fix it on a day 1 or day 2 patch. Like they'll release it on October the 4th no matter what, unless it's like legitimately game breaking. People can't play the game. So
yeah.
And no, I don't mean Junker Queen is still broken. Stop your crying. Although we're going to talk about Junker. We will talk about Junker Queen at some stage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's nice to still have people care enough to, you know, connect the dots that way. But like, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just headcanon, and unfortunately, like,
yes,
it's also just human nature that through, like, you know, once you squeeze an idea through 5 brains, whatever comes out at the end of it is irrecognizable of what the actual thing is, right? So
telephone game.
Yeah, it's like I wouldn't be surprised if the source of like Overwatch 2 is delayed is a Reddit comment of a guy saying like, I could see this to mean.
Yes.
So
the cardinal sin of a place like Reddit is that people will take a comment from another Redditor, just a random Joe, not you, Joe.
You're fine.
Just like a random. You're not a random Joe. You're a very finite known quantity Joe. Whereas the random Joes, they're random. They're by nature RNG. And what I mean by that is they're not credible people.
My fellow NPCs.
I think you are credible. Of the NPCs, of like the extras on set, I think you're at minimum like a featured extra.
Let's go. We're a reoccurring actor.
I've been hired as a featured extra before. That shit pays. So that ain't all bad. That ain't all bad.
Sure, yeah.
My point is, the cardinal sin of a place like Reddit is that a random average Joe, just some Timmy online, will just throw out a take, no basis, no sources, nothing, from a random person, and then another Redditor will read that take and just believe it outright. Just flat out believe it.
Then it
goes, like zero critical thought behind, like, maybe this is not real. No, they just straight up believe it, and then they just spread it, and they say it again to the next person. But each time somebody spreads it, they spread it with more and more confidence.
Yeah, yeah. It's unlucky. I mean, that's just the way it goes. I think that the problem is for me when people with a platform engage in that, and it always feels. A little bit.
Speculation on a not healthy level is never good.
Yeah.
At least Halo apologizes.
Yeah.
Redditors don't do that.
Yep. I mean, they just say shit and then say, well, we're just plebs, and wash their hands, you know?
What do we know? Lol, just a player.
So yeah, we're not, but by the way, I'll backtrack something. Yeah, I'll apologize for something. I'm gonna apologize for my comment about it being a nothing burger. I don't. When I say it's a nothing burger, I'm trying to downplay a little bit. To be fair,
yeah.
What I'm really trying to say there is that again, you have to understand my position is that I am disconnecting the meeting from the part where teams are shelling their rosters. Because that already started. That was already happening regardless. If the meeting didn't fucking take place at all, this shit would still be happening. That's what I'm trying to say. So that everything I'm saying, including the nothing burger comment, is in relation to that.
Yeah.
But what I'm actually, to backpedal a little bit and just kind of rewrite that statement. And you know what? I'm gonna be a man about it. I'm not even gonna delete the tweet. I'm gonna leave it up there because I'm gonna own up to it. Yeah, the content of the meeting probably not positive. It's definitely not a good meeting. I don't think people walked out of the meeting with fucking smiles.
Yeah.
So, but that also doesn't mean the sky is falling. It just reinforces what we already know. Like, yes, the financials don't look good. Yeah, we all fucking knew that. We've known that for like 3-4 years now. Like, that's not news. Like, if you're freaking out about that right now, where have you been? Like, everyone else has had their freak out about that already. Yeah. You were late to the party on that freak out. Like, you were so late to the party. That's
like beginning of the year,
guys.
Yeah,
it's not a good thing. I think we can all come to an agreement there. I think that there is I saw Jacob Wolf actually tweet something that I agreed with recently, just talking about esports as a whole, where I think we need to have like a sobering look. That doesn't mean esports dying. That doesn't mean that competitive gaming for money. Exactly. Yeah, we're staring in the face of a correction in the middle of a recession, and we're seeing an exasperated take on that because of some extracurriculars that our company or developer has gotten into. Don't like that. It's not a good thing. Don't condone it. And yeah, it's not a good thing. But I think my take, I'll give you this hopium. I think by playoffs, I think we'll probably have a sponsor back. If I had to guess,
that's not a uncommon thing.
Yeah.
Lots of esports have specific playoffs sponsors only for playoffs.
Yep. But I think it's like in correlation with like the hype around Overwatch 2, maybe marketing spins up. Like
I'm just saying for the people that are like, cope.
Yeah. No.
Which, by the way, is the most like stupid response you could have. It's like
it's the new cringe.
It's like what it is like. You don't actually have a response. You don't have like a rebuttal. You're just like. You're just saying some buzzword because you think it means something. I'm not saying we will have a sponsor by playoffs, but if we did, it wouldn't surprise me because I think like that would be the time because it like you're right, it all lines up. So context, by the way, the game being Overwatch 2 releases October 4th, which is third week of Countdown Cup.
Yeah.
So not even playoffs yet. We're still in stage 4. Releases middle of stage 4, by the way. Not even the playoffs. So I'm expecting a lot for the release. And the people saying like, let me inject some like real hopium because there's a lot of fake hopium out there. Listen, I've been stockpiling my specific black label top shelf shit. There's some. I got some hard hopium here. That is like this is elite, many decades aged wine level hopium. That is going to be delicious. You are gonna fucking love this. This is not some bullshit hopium. This is real. Eric, I'll give you this link. Some legitimate hopium. ES Charts, which sorry, this is Stream Charts, the superior platform, not ES Charts. Released a graphic and a statement recently that showed that based on hours watched, Overwatch League was the 4th most watched channel in July. I think that's pretty cool. That's above Tim the Tap Man. And that is ahead of the Call of Duty League. And I don't see any other esports on there because I guess they're not specific to YouTube gaming. But in any case, it's a pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Just kind of shows like it's it's our concurrent viewership isn't amazing. We don't hit 100K. I think the last time we hit 100K was during Kickoff Clash. And as it normally does happen throughout the year, we will dip in viewership until the playoffs, in which we're going to come up against. So we have a big trough. We start high, stage 1, week 1. We start high, we start dipping, then we come back for playoffs. This is some like legitimate hopium, and I'm not saying like this is enough to get all the sponsors back. I'm not saying that this makes us a tier 1 esport. That's not what I'm saying, but I am saying that it's not all doom and gloom. And beyond that as well, I know that our current player numbers, our current monthly active users for Overwatch is pretty fucking competitive. You'd be surprised. It actually competes with some quote unquote popular games, like some commonly agreed upon popular games out there. Overwatch in its present day quote unquote dead state, no current updates, no new content, just some remix skins. Yes, that Overwatch today still has competitive monthly active user player numbers compared to real living games, not even esports, just games. Pretty competitive. You probably find it hard to believe, but you have to consider. First of all, we're on so many platforms: console, Switch. Right? Okay, that's way more than a lot of other games. Not every game is played on Switch, console, and PC, and regionally popular and all. So combining everything together, like we have a humongous casual audience. Just as an aside to Overwatch League, this is not even talking about Overwatch League, just talking about Overwatch generally speaking. So I have a lot of faith that with the actual game coming out, our casual audience that I'm going to be honest, these are the people that don't even go on Twitter to look at any other thing Overwatch. They don't go on Reddit. These are people that are so casual, they won't even show up on BNet forums.
Yeah.
Thankfully, thank God.
They know better.
they don't care enough because they're that casual. They just want to boot up a game and play. Overwatch 2 will come out. They'll see it. It's free to play. They'll all fucking play it. And if they love it, they'll keep playing. Otherwise, they'll play Fortnite or whatever else they want to play instead. But our numbers will grow. Our numbers are guaranteed to grow. I think the projection from my perspective is that we're going to have a massive boost on launch. It will go down expectedly because it has to. It has to correct. But once it corrects, what is the number after it's had its quote unquote market correction as far as player numbers goes? Because if it stabilizes in a pretty reasonable place, I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with that.
That's something you can sell to sponsors. That's something you can, temper expectations with the franchises. That's something to get us back on the track of like good health, and make this a little bit more feasible. I think a lot of this is just a lot of like excitement to get into the league and a lot of money spent probably in the wrong directions. And now people are, upset about it. And yeah, I don't know. It sucks, but
I still think the number one cause of a lack of interest in Overwatch League, and everyone wants to blame the league for this, but I blame the game, because your league can only ever be as popular as your game. And when your game doesn't have interest and is not that popular, how the hell is your esport going to be popular? Right? Those things are directly linked. And then obviously there, I'm not saying the league is blameless. I'm just looking at other perspectives of like what things affect the health of the league, and the health of the game is a vital cause. It's like that to me is like a number one on the chart, on the priority list. And obviously there needs to be a bit of time to get past the whole sponsorship loss thing, and they can come back in, and we need some positive news about the league at some point. Some just positive news around the game is a good start, because that will trickle down into the league. And then because the entire internet in 2022 is just trend based. If something is trending up, generally people want to trend up with it. When something's trending down, everyone's just trending down with it. So yeah, I mean, I think next year will be decent. Next year is not the test for me. It's 2024. Because I have no doubt that 2023 is going to be a good year. Because,
right,
that's the pop off.
I have high hopes for 2023. I think 2024 will go ham.
2024 is the year that I care about, because that's the year that tells me,
it's like the plateau.
Is this sustainable or not? Yeah. Because if it starts dipping year on year and year and after that, then I'm like, we're back down the same rabbit hole again. But if we can stabilize and we can, I don't even give a fuck about climbing, just stabilize. That's good enough for me.
Yeah. Do you guys have any gut feeling like, comes out October 4th, we still have like a bunch of playoffs to go by that point? Like, will playoffs pop off, do you think? Or is that too early for those new players to be converted to Overwatch League?
I think it depends on how they implement anything. I think there's a lot of ways, some that we've discussed on the show, some that I've put out publicly, that I think you can entice people. Depends on the
I got a good one. I got a good one. You do a playoff skin, and it's fucking poggers.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is.
You make what are they? Mythic skins? What's the new hype skin?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you. I mean, I would love that. I know those mythic skins are a lot of work though. So this is like real hopeful talking now. But like, if you have anything close to even, it doesn't even have to be mythic. Just like a high tier legendary skin for playoff specific, and then obviously do the viewership rewards.
Imagine.
Then yeah, I mean, just any incentive, just something where like players coming in, and then obviously marketing that within the client itself, which is actually a really normal activity that all other games with esports do. But the Battle.net forums like to cry about that kind of stuff all the time. But yeah, like I think there's. I'm not willing to give up on this shit yet, because I know there's still another card to be played. Right? We haven't seen the fucking river. The game is not over. Haven't seen the river.
To be honest, I think our hand's not bad. I think we have a good hand.
Yeah, and I think I think we have good outs. It's not just a good hand. I'm not, there are some good outs that the river can pull through. If you don't know anything about poker, you're really confused by this right now, but I don't know, get educated. I can't help you there. You got to do that. You got to get educated on your own. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, we got a reasonable hand with some good outs, and the river could reveal some good shit for us. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying we're
100%.
guaranteed to succeed, but I think 2023 is going to be a pop-off year regardless.
Yeah.
But again, that's not the year I care about. I care about 2024 and beyond because that's what will tell me where the trend is going.
For sure.
But yeah, I think we're due for a pretty major upswing. We're copping all the L's for now. My only hope is that when we're on our way for the upswing, people actually give it a proper chance and like aren't just still trying to shit on it because it's fun to shit on it, which I don't know.
Asking a lot, but
I'm sailing against the wind here a little bit because I know people on the internet just like to fucking what's the trend? Are we still is shitting on Overwatch still fun? Is that still the trend? Oh, am I still getting viewership for doing that? It's not fun anymore. Oh, we're gonna swap around. Yeah. Cool.
We're getting there.
What's next? So,
got some moves.
Part of this, the next thing on the docket is this entire owners meeting kind of dealio.
True.
Mixes in with the entire like budget financial discussion of which
pull that up actually.
Yiska wrote a big boy article. He put a lot of time into this one, so give it a look on GG Recon on Yiska's Twitter. You'll see it. Of the budget tier list.
By the way, did you guys appreciate our like slyness? Because like I was like, okay, I'm going to write a 1,500 word article explaining the methodology, like, telling you like where the weaknesses are, and like injecting some thoughts, and nobody's ever going to read it, and they're just going to copy paste the budget tier list away from it. So what did I ask my graphics guy to do? Please to put the link into the
that was smart as fuck
background.
Yeah, you need to. You have to watermark it.
Yeah. In order for us to like have any chance to see any traffic from this. Yeah.
I think in a weird way, that was probably a downfall. Is you probably should have just written all this out, fucking image, because you know that's just getting copy pasted.
I mean, then there's screenshotting. Like.
Yeah, I mean, there's no good way around it. But regardless, this is a very interesting piece.
And if I go from team to team, then there's going to be a top comment. Too long, didn't read. San Francisco Shock 1 or whatever.
True.
You can't win. You can't win.
You really can't. I hate this shit. It's rough, but regardless. Yeah. Toronto S-Class, let's go. I'm tired of this fucking org.
So let's Yiska, you wrote the article. Yeah, you'll do us the honors of explaining what is this article? Explain the article for us.
Okay, so I was like, we have a problem with judging performance from head coaches, judging performance from teams. We had some principal cases where, for instance, last year, like people were almost tired of hearing like the Eternal underperform, like, and then like this season, like London was doing well against expectations. I think them doing well against expectations is actually the reason they're hyped. Not that they're doing it on a low budget, because nobody had the idea about the budget, right? So I was like, really? Success is playing the hand you're dealt the best, right? Like, who uses the budget they are given the most efficiently? Okay. Of course, we have to create a baseline for viewers. So I was thinking about how can I get that information out, and how can I get people to give me that information and feel secure in doing so. So the first thing I had to assure was source anonymity. I also think that people dislike giving me like solid numbers. So the next best thing is to go down in granularity and say, let's make it a tier list. We all love tier lists, and we still get some accuracy in. So I asked, I think every team in North America asked someone, and then I asked other people from other, parts of the industry to also weigh in. And in the end, there were 12 submissions. Okay. Then we aggregated it because I didn't give them like an amount of tiers that they should use. And we did the math, we aggregated them and put them into tiers. Now here's where where it gets interesting because some people were very open with me about their budgets, which allowed me to make much more accurate predictions about the tier, what that means in terms of like how everyone measured up. I will say another concession that I absolutely had to make, which you should also consider when looking at this, is I could not give you a number on what teams pay for their facilities. What I hope to improve on the next ones is what benefits do players get. Because, let's be honest, it is a very big difference to have your housing paid, to have a food stipend. Some teams have a $50 a day food stipend, right? Like you can buy Uber Eats for yourself for $50 a day for some of them.
That's like one meal on Uber Eats. That's pretty hot.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
that changes the entire equation a little bit, right? There's something to be said about local tax rates. There's something to be said about like in terms of like the buyout, because the buyout itself, it's not just going to the team that you're buying a player from. I believe it's 25% of the buyout goes directly to the player, right? So what I ended up having to make the concession here is what kind of player budget in terms of salary and buyout do we have? Why did I choose this? Well, because it's a metric that is pretty frequently discussed, and I hear discussed, and also because a lot of teams, not all, think in these pools. Like a general manager generally, I think for most teams, is given a range of what they can allocate for resources for buyouts and salaries. Some teams even have a separate pool of salaries and a separate pool of buyouts, right? Now, of course, as you will understand, this is not a great situation to judge some of them. So let's say if I was to judge the Seoul Dynasty, they would presumably be lower in the budget tier list than they would have been in the year that they acquired Gesture and Profit, because that buyout was fat. Correct? In the year after reporting that, of course, that buyout is no longer part of that budget because I have normalized it on year or whatever. So you would have to consider that in as well, right? Eventually, as I keep doing them, we will have a better understanding of where that money went. And like teams that have superstars over several seasons, of course, don't have to pay buyouts. That doesn't mean they haven't already paid for that some time ago, right? It's just a snapshot of the now. It's also a weakness. Now, in the end, I think we had 6 tiers. I had to debate a little bit because, I mean, the differences, as you can see them, like what substantiates a considerable difference. Like that's where I made a little bit of a judgment call. I would also generally say, if I was, with my informed opinion, if I was to do that tier list, I would probably shove a couple of teams around a little bit. But I think the aggregate in total still turned out to be pretty good. Like nobody came out to me and said like, okay, like you messed it up here big time, right?
Right.
I actually went back because, like, I think a lot of teams are also interested in seeing where others vote them, and they were actually surprised that they weren't over or underrated heavily, right? So, yeah, in general, I think it's important to note that a team like the Paris Eternal, I think those were at 330K budget, are basically operating at a cost that you would have to pay in terms of buyout and salary for a top tier talent, maybe even a little bit less. Like I can tell you this. I think I've heard of a deal of 250K, 200K. So 250K buyout, 200K salary.
50
now,
salary, right.
The problem with me giving you that number is it's never this definitive. There are always contingencies like how many plays, like, you know, how they're in sports, there are sometimes like conditions where if a player achieves certain things, then the buyout, you know, post the submission or post the transfer changes once again, right? It's never a super exact science. There's also like things to consider in contracts, like, and that's not, you know, like that's maybe not in that case, but I've heard about contracts in the past where a player came out or had like streaming number contingencies in their contract, like stream X amount of hours and you get more salary. So once again, it's more like an estimation of what is likely to be earned, or in some cases the baseline. In some like you got to look at the motivations of the people that are giving you those numbers. I will also tell you, some players were ridiculously overvalued in terms of what people thought they were getting, based on the highest offer in the market being rejected and going to the next highest offer. And some of them were ridiculously different, right? Like, I heard of a player being advertised for 300K salary and everyone believing that it must have been in the ballpark number. And I went to the team and could confirm it was just 160.
Right.
Okay. So there's a lot of that type of stuff going on where you have to really do your due diligence and figure out like what is actually true, right? I also think it helps if there's an incentive for people to clear up untrue rumors, and they'll just tell you, yeah, I mean, come on, do you really think we're paying 300K here, right? So, yeah, I think overall, I think some teams were also very hard to evaluate, because one thing I did was say, also please put contenders lineups into the evaluation, because presumably you're also saving on buyouts. Like T1 had no buyouts, right? No, Fury's contract expired. I'm pretty sure at the end of the season, so they didn't have to pay a buyout, as per roster construction article or whatever. But I think a team like the Shock is very hard to evaluate, because I think that's the team that is likely to be overrated in what the people asked would assume they would have paid. But it's also like, I think there's probably something interesting with their monetization there, because they really hyped O2 with the merch and whatnot, right? I assume that has some monetary value, similar to how our streaming deals wasn't just like a lump sum cash, but like, you know, access to Google Sense service. So like a service type of thing. So like there we get into the murky territory. I think like if I had to say with a confidence interval, the Shock I'm least confident that they are in the correct tier. I think the Outlaws could be somewhere else. The Defiant could be somewhere. Lower? I mean, I think that the Outlaws could be higher. I think the Defiant could maybe be lower. San Francisco could be lower. And that's probably yes. And then, of course, Brad came out and said, look, like, we sold Pelican, and based on the outline criteria in the article, it would put us in B tier, which is fair enough. So yeah,
just generated some interesting discussion. Now you're gonna have to do you're gonna have to do an updated tier list now, because Washington they're spinning down, right? So you gotta move them down a little bit, because their costs are going down.
True.
Yeah,
but sure. I think there's not, like, my biggest takeaway from all of this was that Washington weren't underperforming really that hard. People for some reason thought Washington had an S tier budget when they didn't.
True.
Yeah.
They did not. Like, yeah, okay. People like, yeah, but what about Decay and Happy? It's like, cool. Now tell me how much Opener is getting paid, or Krillin's getting paid, or Vigilante's getting paid. Maybe Vigilante could be going for something. I don't know. But like, there's a lot of players in that. How much is Kaleidos getting paid? Like, You're
Yeah.
like basing people are basing their entire like inflated sense of how high Washington's budget is off of like 2 players.
Yeah. I can
It's like,
tell.
unless the K's being paid $1 million,
Yeah.
no, their budget's not that high.
Like I can tell you, or okay, if I had to guesstimate, and once again, this is highly speculative, I think probably only 2 players are above 100K, which is likely to be on Washington, which is likely to be Happy and Decay. Is my take. I don't even think Mac is at 100K. Maybe now in the second season, but probably not before.
Sure.
But it could be wrong. And then, yeah, like everyone else is probably just on a solid, like not min salary necessarily, maybe opener, anywhere close, but like probably not too close. And yeah, that just shakes out. I think I had them at 800K with buyouts. So that's still substantially less than the 1.2 mil that I have other teams pegged at the top, right?
For sure. And I think you can maybe mark that as a success. It'd be interesting, like you said, it's hard to evaluate, some of the other amenities that maybe this team is attracting them with. But it would be very interesting to see how they are courting these people in at such aggressive prices, let's say.
The biggest surprises, at least from the public perspective, would be that Vancouver are a lot higher than people probably would have thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think people are still like thinking it's Vancouver from last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas it's like, no, bro, Shockwave got a bag, as did some other players. It's like, how else can Vancouver get anybody on their team? It's like, the reputation isn't getting people on the team, so they have to start paying for players if they want to get any sort of roster. And they did want to compete this year. They did clearly want a roster. Yes, they failed, but their intention was to get a reasonable roster. I think their roster is reasonable to say the least. Yeah. And maybe they'll start showing it now on this in this stage. So yeah, they are definitely underperforming their salary expectations. Everybody in that D tier, which is just 2 teams, London and Florida, heavily overperformed.
Massively overperforming,
the budgets. Although I think we all knew that maybe Florida could do that, but London doing that is a welcome surprise.
Yes, 100%. Definitely a success story.
Yeah, I mean, still though, when you look at the top, most of the teams at the top,
most of them make sense.
The good are the teams that are at the top. It's just like, okay, Toronto are underperforming based on their budget. However, they hopefully will make a bit of a comeback this stage. They're already on 2-0. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that crazy to think that the Toronto Defiant team can still make a bit of a push.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that team definitely came into the offseason and really wanted to create a top-tier team, and then certain factors just didn't work in their favor. And we'll see. I mean, there's still 2 days in the offseason, in the trade season left, and then I mean, if you wanna get anyone from contenders, you could also do.
True. Yeah.
Do you want to explain a little bit, if you know that is, why I have some speculation why there's a specific trade deadline happening on August 18th?
So,
which is by the time recording today or tomorrow.
My assumption is that they probably would just want to protect from the decay situation that we had with Washington a 2 seasons ago. Where
2020, I believe,
like in the 11th hour of the season, a team could come together and form a super team of sorts. Also had relatively low investment theoretically, because you don't have to pay the player much longer. Of course, like whatever buyout you have to pay, whatever, would be probably significant. But yeah, like you don't want to be in a position. Also, I mean, nobody at the league will probably ever give me that comments or do as much, but also I think it's doing it this early is probably not super super smart from just like what the ruckus that is being caused here. Keep in mind, you probably could have anticipated that something like those blow-ups might happen, and that a lot of very good players might become available to the market, and that you might not want to increase the probability of this happening, and therefore like just creating like unreal super teams at the very end, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I will still tell you the potential for unreal super teams is still out there.
Very real.
I think like if Happy was going to be traded, I think that's a season changing
That's a booster.
trade
Yeah.
for
So
almost every team at the top level.
So I guess the point is like we do need a trade deadline to happen. Like it has to happen. We are required to have a trade deadline. We can argue when that should be. Should it be August the 18th? Should it be earlier? Should it be later? That can be a reasonable argument. Obviously, it has to happen before, 100% before playoffs. But here it's happening even in the middle of Summer Showdown. You could say that maybe you could play all of Stage 3 and still be okay, and then only have the trade deadline after Stage 3 in between Stage 3 and 4 is maybe an argument to make. But we do have to have a deadline at some point so that we can avoid having a bit of a Mickey Mouse end of year situation where, teams do major shuffling based on like, this team's been eliminated and they can't go into playoffs, but they have a fucking superstar player.
Crazy team.
Oh yeah, let's just pick up that guy. Like, no, that just fucks shit up. So
also because we are so forgiving, right? Like imagine sneaking in 10th place, dropping a fat bag onto the end of the season and winning the season based on that. That would be
You have a little vulture.
That would be
Especially if you agree to the idea that like teams, there's a lot of turmoil in teams. There's a lot of players that like do a lot of griping. Maybe you get dropped. Maybe you get picked up. Maybe you go on a Cinderella run and you win the league. Like it's never
also,
want a vulture to win the league, right?
It's also like if you're a team that is effectively out of qualification, you could just drop your star player. Like even just think about it. Like if like Charge was never going to do anything with their roster, and they play it out by probably like right around the end of Stage 3, they realize, okay, we're not going to be part of the Overwatch League play-ins this year. They just sell Choice 1 to the highest bidder, make a fat bag, probably more than like they could be expected to make otherwise. Like they basically win their own little Overwatch League in the trading market there, and like just determine the season that way, and that's not a satisfying situation, right?
Oh, definitely not. Definitely.
I still think we're a little early because I feel like, yes, I see the point that at this stage nobody's really out, and soon we are going to have teams that are out or practically out.
Yeah.
But it's practically also at mid-season point if you measure the length of the playoffs into that. So we still have half a season to play, and we now can only trade contenders players or players that don't have active PSAs by the deadline, right? So, yeah.
So yeah, that's the situation. Caught up. It's how it got to be. So given that Mag is, as we're starting to move around now, we need to actually talk about the player movements. I was going to talk about Mag. Should we just start with Mag?
Let's go.
Sure.
Let's just maybe start with Mag because we're talking about Washington a little bit. He's the first player so far to be traded off of Washington.
Yeah.
Mirror from Vancouver Titans had hinted on his stream, the clips are now deleted, that he is already aware of several other players in Washington that are about to be traded.
Yeah.
Whether he's baiting or not, who knows? But he seems pretty confident. Maybe he's trolling. I feel like he knows.
Fingers crossed that they do, and they are,
like
because we want those players to stay within the league.
But it would obviously play into what Yiska's previous article about Washington Justice was.
Yes.
Or that it's better than the situation that Yiska had written, which was that they were all just going to get dropped, but after the deadline. Here, it seems like at least part of the roster, some players will get traded to teams where they can still have careers.
Right. And I think Boston made out here. I think, and we've mentioned this on the show before, but like hypothetically, even just looking at New York and like trading tanks, I think Mag performs significantly better and is a more useful tool off the Washington Justice for a number of reasons. And I think Boston, credit to them, they always find value in the market. The Boston Bazaar is open for business again, and now they have somebody that, you know, came into this league with a lot of potential, and I think still has some.
This is like the tank player clown car of the Boston Uprising for the year. How many tanks have they had now this year? Is this their fourth tank?
4.
Marvel, Itzel, Punk.
Marvel, Itzel, yep.
Mag. Then last year they had Gableshee as well. It's like,
yes,
and you know, and Punk has kind of outlasted everybody. So is this so a part of me is like, great, Mag gets to be on the team, but also part of me is like, who are you going to play, Mag or Punk? Because Punk has been the horse you've been riding on for a while now. He's a pretty fucking dependable horse, given that too. And he's been shown 100%. To be pretty reasonable on the junk wing, but then so is Mag. So what is the actual real situation now? The real situation could be that if we, God willing, ever escape this junk wing meta, Boston actually have like a main tank off tank split between Mag and Punk, which does make sense. But for now, who the fuck plays?
I would suggest
somebody's got to be benched.
I would suggest Punk has probably had more scrim time with the team. They understand exactly like the idea that Laurie has.
Had about
like
2 to 3 years worth of extra scrim time with the team.
Like that's who I'd want to see continue to be played, unless Mag is like actually diffing kids and you want to like shift gears. I think Punk's probably the safest bet.
Mag did look
he did look good. 100% did.
Who knows?
I think the safest bet is to have Punk, and then to also just have the insurance policy that if we ever go to a Rhine, Winston, you know, centric, maybe even Orisa metagame, Mag does have some playtime on Orisa this season.
They could have even. I know this would never happen, but just in my head canon, they could have even had Kalios back on Boston. You know? Especially the man returns home. Especially given that Huck isn't there anymore, so there's no one for him to beef with.
Fair. Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah.
A lot of hatchets being buried out in Boston. So again, happy to see Mag on a different team. I do think come next season, I think we're gonna have to rewrite the book of Mag. I think we're gonna see a bit of a renaissance from what should have been a Rookie of the Year shoe-in.
Well, especially given last year there weren't that many powerful candidates, or a few. The Pelican was head and shoulders. So the next player, as we move through, we'll leave Paris for last. Piggy is off of the team of the Houston Outlaws. Didn't play a single game the stage so far out of Houston's 2 games. Yeah. Dante and Doeg have both played at the stage. Piggy played extensively in Midseason Madness. I want Yiska to come in for this one because there was commentary made from, this was news to me, I only found out a day or two ago, from Harsha, who's now no longer with Houston, but is still, I would say, pretty well connected with Houston. Harsha had come out and said that this was actually Piggy's decision. This wasn't Piggy necessarily being dropped. Piggy wanted to quit. It actually was his call. So what's the deal with that?
Hello. Hi. You asked about
the Harsha comment about Piggy.
Right. I think it might be the case that, okay, so let's talk about what mutually agrees means in some instances, right? In some instances, it's PR speak. In some instances, it's legitimate legal speak, where this now communicates a contractual status for Piggy that helps him in the rest of the season in the market, right? So, okay, how can a player get out of their contract? Okay, so the first one is, of course, like they can be traded and whatnot. Or there's a retirement mechanism within Overwatch League contracts where a player retires, therefore doesn't get any salary anymore. But if they were to unretire, they would then, like the host team would still hold the value of the contract, so they then would have to pay a buyout. Okay? To mutually part ways means this has been nullified. Right? So it's not like Piggy retired here, and therefore, if he wanted to play for another team again, he now has to have a buyout paid for him. They agreed to terminate the contract. Whether or not that means he gets a severance, I don't know. That it might be the case, it might not. But bottom line is he's eligible for the next season. Now, in terms of the motivations here, that's less clear. But I think what is important to point out here is whatever reason Piggy had to make that move, as I understand it, like it was Piggy's decision in the end to look for his luck elsewhere. Now, was it a smart decision? Given, like, if that was to be true, is that a smart decision? It's a hard one to make. I will say, I was very surprised that he wasn't the one picking up Junker Queen. Like, if you look at how the season went for Piggy, I understand that it is probably like if you see a Doom meta, that a DPS player takes on the Doom is less problematic for me. Okay?
Sure.
Like that was once a DPS hero, and now your DPS player plays the DPS hero that's now a tank. That seems sensible to me. That you cannot fill the main tank roles makes also sense to me, right? That you don't play the new hero, now I'm concerned.
Yeah. I feel bad saying this, but I think at some point you have to. I just don't think Piggy's all that good. I think he plays a mean Sigma. I think his D.Va is probably pretty serviceable, but like that's probably not enough. And I think this is like rough.
I think it's important to clear up that this is the one roster move that was not part of this whole like, Overwatch League is dying and everyone's dropping everybody, kind of dooming him going around. This was actually a player that actually just wanted to quit for his own reasoning.
For whatever it is. Yeah.
And as far as I'm aware, he still wants to play. It's not like, oh no, I don't want to be in the Overwatch League anymore. He still wants to play.
I just don't even know where
just not on Houston. Just not on Houston. So
like
this is the
I hope
move.
he finds a home in Contenders and like proves me wrong. Like I hope he like wins a championship and comes back and has a bang up season, but there's no spot in the league for him the way that I see it right now. I just don't
unless Vancouver like but then again they've actually committed to Mirror playing tank now, so it's like even then I don't see it. He would be an unrestricted free agent though, right? There's no buyout, surely.
Sure, but like, who wants him right now? Who wants to drop 50K?
Is that right, Yiska? Right, do you think Piggy has a buyout or no? Is he restricted or unrestricted?
I think he would not have a buyout.
Unrestricted then, yeah. So
is No Hill feasting?
Pretty attractive. No Hill's feasting for a 30-day contract for sure.
I guess
he's got to fit another player on that bed. Let's go.
Like, Is Paris reaching out? Like I genuinely am at a loss for which team.
Paris is a full NA team.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, there's
the other thing is Piggy's like salary's in flux now because like another team could reach out, but it's like, hey, you want to play for 50K? You know, like that's could be a team might just throw that out there, just like shoot their shot. What do you got to lose?
Like I don't know that like Piggy to Toronto is an upgrade.
No,
I think Hob is doing fine. Hob is doing a fine team.
Exactly.
I don't make that move personally.
Yeah.
I don't know. He might end up having to go to Contenders. I look across the different teams. I'm like, Maybe if Seoul are really desperate for an off-tank player, but I think Smurf is good and Smurf covers it. I think you just
Maybe
trust
New
Smurf.
York? Maybe. Big maybe. I'm okay with that at least.
They don't need him now, though. I think Kellen's fine for the
No,
time being.
agreed.
So if New York do
It's an
make
insurance
the move,
policy.
it'll be like for a future stage,
Yeah.
and that's only if we get out of the Jungle Queen.
Big
meta.
if. Yeah.
So no, I don't see any position for him to go in.
Mhm.
I legitimately don't, which is a bit sad,
It sucks, yeah.
but it do be
I
how
like
it
saying
is.
that.
Best of luck, Piggy. Best of luck. He did make the call. I was skeptical. I was skeptical because the whole time I was like, bro, I think he just got dropped and this is PR. I think this whole
Sure,
like neutral
yeah.
thing is
I think
PR.
that's a safe assumption.
That was the position I was in for a very long time.
Yeah.
But you know, given that Harsha, who I respect a lot and I think has a lot of credibility, came out and said like, no, Biggie chose to go. I was like, all right, well, I'll accept that. Cool. Let's talk about some people that didn't decide to go but have been let go.
Oh no.
Parisio Eternado, the Vegas Eternal. To be fair, they're building a full N8 team for their Vegas position. Like,
What assume?
actually not bad. In some ways I don't know. Actually, I don't want to read into. I was about to say maybe they're building for next year, but I don't want to go too far. I think the way Paris has gone, you never fucking know. You never know.
Yeah.
So, big news. This is the huge roster news because it was 4 whole damn players gone. So at this stage now, the whole Paris squad that we started with at the start of 2022 is now no more, and we've got an entirely new Paris roster with 6 new people now.
Yeah.
So we just had the announcement of Dan, Vastola, Dridro, and Khan being dropped from the team.
Mm-hmm.
And they've picked up 3 players from Odyssey and Crowley from, I don't know, from another team. Sorry.
Or Wisp, is that right?
Wisp.
Yeah,
Boom.
Wisp.
Done. Thank you. One of us watches Contenders in A.
I have
so we have
Wikipedia open.
Rack Attack, Luke Mino, Crowley, and Mouthful, the new players. So
Yes.
if you've actually watched Contenders NA, these are pretty familiar names.
Mm-hmm.
The Luke Mino Rack Attack combo has been. They've been around. They've been around the block
for a long time.
And
Yeah.
people, a lot of people ask us like, "Where's Luke Mino? How come he's not getting picked up?" Boom, picked up
Yeah.
finally.
Yeah.
So, congrats. I went to Rack Attack's stream recently and wished him good luck. By the way, as well. Also, a word of warning: be like, "Hey, keep your mentals in a secure vault.
Yeah.
Secure that shit. Secure your mentals for the rest of the season."
And it sucks
they need
because this feels like very similar in feeling, not in terms of execution, but in feeling to like what happened with Vancouver, where it's like these guys are not set up for success. Like, let's be honest. Like, this is tough to like dig yourselves out of this hole. You have what? A win? No wins?
It's
Where are they
hard
at?
now, but I actually like,
Yes.
if you were to look at this roster
Mhm.
and in a vacuum and pretend the league starts tomorrow, pretend we haven't
Yeah.
played any games, the league starts tomorrow.
Yep.
I think on paper this is an okay roster. Like you got some like heavy hitters from NA contenders. Okay, you don't have all the heavy hitters because you missed about an OG Ultraviolet, but I'm like,
Yeah.
this is an okay team. I don't know. Maybe okay is not good enough, and maybe I'm just like,
yeah.
maybe like, oh yeah, look, come here. Yeah. 'Cause,
I
like,
think it can be okay. I think eventually, if I can circle back to the poker analogy for just a moment, I think this team has like a couple of outs, but I don't know if that happens this season. I think there are some moves to be made, not in terms just of like the players to sign and acquire.
By the way, can I? Oh, sorry. Did you have more there? I didn't want to cut you off.
No, just like trying to like just wrap it up. I think that there are moves for Paris to make for next season to like make this team actually like kind of competitive. I don't think that just because you have a low budget means that you can't ever find success. I think this is a team that has some London in them eventually. I'll say that.
This is how I know, by the way, that no one has a fucking clue about how coaching works because everyone's gunning after J-Mac's head currently. whereas JMac was like the darling coach of the
Yes,
community
yeah.
like a fucking year ago.
Yeah.
And
He wrote some
you-
papers, guys. Don't worry.
You know, the only thing that's changed since then, Paris started losing and they stopped winning. That was it.
Mhm.
So once again, we come back to the age-old, tried and true, except it's commonly not actually true. It's not entirely false either. I don't want to say it's like always bullshit, but it's not always as cut and clear as black and white binary as like a 1 or 0 here. But essentially, the fan narrative once again goes back to team good equals coach good. Team bad equals coach bad.
Yeah.
That's what it always comes down to. So once again, we've proven as a community that no one knows a fucking thing about coaching at all. No one knows anything about coaching. Not a clue. Not a single fucking clue about coaching.
Yep. If it's just results, and I can't blame you if that's all you have to just like base off of, but to make like ironclad, like, oh, good coach, won in contenders, not always necessarily the case, right?
If your analysis for how good coaching is team win equals coach good and team lose equals coach bad, yeah, you don't know anything about coaching.
Yeah.
And to which people are like, yo, why is that not good enough? Like, surely it's like, bro, a coach can get fucking carried by a good team doing minimal. And at the same time, a coach could be like coaching out of his fucking mind and doing everything, but the team is just failing. Right?
Yeah.
So team win equals coach good, team lose equals coach bad does not fucking check out. Sorry, this simply doesn't check.
Yep.
Also, like, there's something to be said about like a coach matching the style of the team, and that's specifically true when that coach didn't build the team.
Correct.
You know? Like, if you come in and you're now it's less so the case in Overwatch League, but definitely was the case in like season 3. If you come into one of those teams where your players are like on ridiculous salaries on 2+1s, and now you have like $3 left to build the rest of your team, like you cannot evaluate the performance of those coaches with the limited availability of them customizing the roster, because once again, a ton of being successful in the Overwatch League or as a coach is building the right roster, right? So I think that also makes it very important. Yeah.
Even if you are a great coach, even if your on-paper squad is fun, you got all the superstars, you got all the fucking people that are good at the game, in theory and on an individual level, but you put them together and it just doesn't work. You put them together and the players they beef against each other.
So true.
They fucking have infighting, or like they don't respect each other, or like they just fucking, I don't know, maybe they're divas, maybe they're in a foreign place and they're not used to it and they don't like it and they're homesick, or maybe if they're mental issues, maybe they're boomed, and you know, maybe they're all, so many things can happen that can fuck your team extremely hard. That's got nothing to do with the quality of coaching.
I wish my filter was not as strong. I love the analogy that you propose, or at least like the hypotheticals that you could, dance about with. But I'll say this: I think that Overwatch teams in general participate in adult activities, and I would just advise them to use protection. There's a lot of fucking going on, and I think there's an under-evaluation of protection being used.
I did have a point that I was going to get to, and here's the final topic of drama before we move on to Overwatch talk. It's like Ty Dolla also just recently got announced to be dropped from the Washington Justice, and at this stage, you can be sure that I don't have confirmation, but you can be pretty damn sure that Supreme has gone too. Pri has already deleted his Twitter. He's already removed all Washington shit from his stuff. I'm assuming he's gone. I want to talk about Washington stuff. Like, this is going to be me coming in neutral and objective. I'm not here to shit on any of their coaches, especially Supreme. I'm not going to shit on him, but nor am I going to defend him too hard either. I'm just going to look at it from both perspectives and be neutral about this, because I feel like a lot of people are not being neutral. Because I feel like, again, the Reddit analysis is team losing.
Change the coach.
equals
Change the coach.
bad.
Yeah.
If team losing, then coach definitely bad. Or maybe there were other problems, but you know, people don't want to use their brains on that. So here's the thing. Of which, by the way, the next thing the commenter or writer is like, yeah, but then the coach should just fix it.
Oh, if it were only that easy. Love that one.
These motherfuckers aren't. What do you think coaches do? What do you think their job is? These people aren't like psychologists. These people aren't like fucking marriage counselors. Oh, if players are not happy, the coaches should just fix it. Oh, a good coach would fix it. Should they? Do you know what good coaching is? Do you fucking know this shit? Holy fuck, some real armchair analysis. I think some real armchair motherfuckers out there saying some shit.
Things would be so much easier.
You think that was easy, bro? If it were really that easy, we wouldn't have had the fucking we wouldn't have had some of the altercations.
You think Decay's on this team?
I've been subtweeting.
Yeah.
You think it's that fucking easy to you, huh? Armchair analysis? You think it's that easy? So here's the thing. Here's what I understand about the people on there. They're gone anyway, so this is the send-off. This is the send-off. Whether you like him or not, it doesn't fucking matter anymore. Here's the send-off. Here's what I do know. We'll start from Ty Dolla because he's the crux of the announcement here.
Yeah.
Very well-regarded coach from players that have worked with him, including on the Gladiators. He literally won the Gladiators last year. I've only personally, from my own understanding of like people that I've talked to, people have only really said good things about Ty Dolla. He's a well-respected, sought-after coach who's had a good history. This guy is someone that I think is a good coach based on like actual anecdotes from people that have worked with him.
Correct.
Right. So this is about as far away from team winning, good coach, team losing, bad as you can get. This is as far away from that as you can get because I'm not using it. I don't give a fuck about the results. I'm only talking from a perspective of like what is his reputation among people that he's worked with, which is good reputation. Now, let's move on a little bit further. Okay, so what's Supreme doing in here? Because he's been public enemy number one for the Washington Justice. He's just as people for people outside looking into the Washington Justice. Supreme has been like you know, public enemy. From my understanding, Supreme is a facilitator on the team. He's more like a Moon, Get a May style coach that is there to like facilitate, give you the fucking speech, make you feel good. He's not doing strategy for your team. He's not the strategic mind. He is like, I don't know. He's the motivator. He's the figurehead guy. I don't know, something like that. He's the O2 boss style. And this is the other thing. This is the big misconception. Oh, people should, you know,
get O2 boss.
Get this guy. It's like, bro, these maybe, but you are getting another person that's a facilitator. And some teams do need that. I'm not trying to shit on people. Like some teams do need someone like this, because when we talk about like, oh, like, you know, who's gonna fix your interpersonal problems? If you are the type of coach who is a facilitator, who's there to keep people happy and like move things along and be a figurehead that can give good speeches, then yeah, maybe you should be the kind of person that can at least attempt to fix issues like that, interpersonal things, because that should be your strength. Because if your strength isn't coaching the actual game, then your strength better be to fucking keep people in line, or at least keep people that are out of line back in line, put them back. But yeah, so he's not the one, as far as I'm aware, he's not the one that's actually making like strategic calls. That's why you kind of have it in his case and in Moon's case as well. You are the guy in charge from a coaching perspective, but you are building a coaching staff, right? You're getting your Jay Fields and Dong Su's, and in this case, your Ty Dollas and your Chua. And by the way, Chua is another player, same as Ty Dolla, highly respected coach that you want to work with. Strategic coach, knows his shit. Literally won with shit. What team was he on? O2 Blast. He won with O2 Blast, and not that long ago, 2020, in the season they did one, and then as soon as he went, O2 Blast went to shit. This is a team with Proper and Pelican, by the way. Fucking lost their shit and just got annihilated as soon as Chua left. And from what I hear, this guy's also the real deal. This guy's also good. So unless Supreme is coming in and they're just like saying, no. You assistant strategic coaches, you'll sit the fuck down. I'm the captain now, and I'm gonna decide everything. And in some ways, like he has the power to do that. So unless he was sabotaging his own coaching staff, I don't see him as being the guy like fucking his team strategically. And the other thing people don't seem to understand, I think part of where the supreme hate came from this year was there was that, I don't know if you guys remember that one game where Mag Mag came in on map 5 on Lee Chung for Kalios, and Kalios was winning, right? You guys remember this? Kalios was winning. Who were they playing against?
London,
and then they
I
lost.
believe.
London. They were playing against London.
As they mirrored the rush.
Yeah, correct. So here's what happened. They were playing against London. They went to map 5. Kalios was just winning on map 4. I can't even remember what it was, but we go to Lee Chung. But at map 5, Mag gets subbed in. And the entire Overwatch fan community is like, oh my god, they're like fucking livid, they're raging. Why would you sub Mag in? Kalios was winning! And it's like, guys, you understand how hero pools work? What is it that you think that Kalios is going to play on Lee Chung Tower? This is a Reinhardt map, by the way. It's a Rein map. What is it that you think Kalios is doing? I get it. People don't understand substitutions. They fundamentally do not get how substitutions from teams work, why teams would make substitutions. Because it is hero pools matter this year more for tags more than anything. Like most teams don't have a do-it-all tag. They don't have a fucking Smurf on their team because guess what?
Sure.
There's only one fucking Smurf in the whole league. So for every other team that doesn't have Smurf, you have to balance the shit between 2 players. And it just so happens that when you go to Lee Chung Tower as map 5, it is a better map for Mag's hero pool than Kalios' hero pool. Straight up. If I was on the coaching staff of the Washington Justice, I would have made the same fucking call unless there's an inherent belief that there is something that Kalios could do on that map which would still get you the win. Right? Because we're playing a game of percentages here. What will give you the high... Let's go back to the poker analogy. My hand is whatever the fuck it is. I have 2... I don't know. I've two 4s at the moment. I need that 3rd 4 to pop up in the river. I'm playing for an out. You're playing for percentages here. You're playing for percentages. You're playing for Mag having like a 5% higher chance to win than Kalios on this map. But the likely result is you lose regardless. The unfortunate situation is on that particular map, when London go Hardy Rein and they get to play their Rein, you either play Mag, who tries to play a Winston unsuccessfully into the Rein, or Doom. Maybe he could have just tried Doom. He can try he can try the Rein and just see what happens. Obviously, it went poorly. Or you can try and play Kalios, who's going to play Zarya or Sigma, or God forbid, a fucking Diva, which is going to get rolled. Sigma gets rolled by Rein. Zarya gets rolled by Rein. That was proven very quickly in the kickoff clash, in case you didn't pay attention to Dallas's performance versus Gladiators. So what the fuck does Kalios do for you on that map? He doesn't do shit. That's why he got subbed out. This is how hero pools work. And everyone dogpiled on the coaching staff and Supreme or Washington Justice like, oh, Supreme must be so stupid. Why would you sub out Kalios? He was winning. You motherfuckers don't get how substitutions work, straight up. So that's to me where like the majority of the dogpiling on Supreme. And I'm not saying he's a great coach. Again, I'm trying to come into this neutral. Because everyone's so like negative, I have to try and bring it back up to neutral. Now that we are neutral, I can say that I don't think he was a great coach, but I don't think he was fucking dog shit either. Right? Am I allowed to say that?
No, I think that's more than fair. I think no matter how you want to view like the name recognition on this team, I think there was some problems, and I think that your tone addresses those problems, I think, well enough. I think my only statement on this is I would love to know who is in the decision-making process the last 3 years, so 2020, 2021, 2022, because there are some choices that were made. There were some things that I feel like have been confirmed and never changed. And yeah, I don't know. I think the decision maker for this team, the roster builder for this team, is very suspect, I would say. I don't know who that is. I genuinely don't know.
Maybe last year, but I'll say that this year's roster is not bad.
I think
on paper,
when you transparency, when you judge it with like onion skin to last year, I don't think enough changed, me personally.
Do you think this year's roster is upgraded to last year?
Is this year's roster an upgrade to last year? Let's see.
I would say it is an upgrade.
Yeah. But I don't know that we're looking for upgrades. I think you need resolution. If I had to dance around it.
Because the other thing is like you can absolutely fumble on upgrading your team. I'm looking at fucking Toronto. They've like, okay, I don't want to shit on them too hard either because I think they're making a comeback. But
sure.
You can spend all the money and get all the fucking expensive players.
Yes, this is not a money issue. I think.
Some of them, by the way, have overperformed expectations because everyone thought Finale was going to be shit, and that guy ended up popping off. That guy ended up being great.
Yeah.
So my point is like you can sometimes, and Yiska's spoken to this as well. Like building a roster is sometimes about the RNG of lucking into metas as well, because you are basically building. You're building for flexibility in that you can try and solve meta problems with your available players, which is what a team like Glads can do because they have a larger roster and they have great players on their specific positions, and they have the capability to run a whole bunch of different things. And you're trying to solve that problem. Now, for a team like Washington, I don't think you're expecting them to be as good as Gladiators because when you realistically come back to it and you look at the expectations, this is not an S tier team that should be winning the league or winning a stage title.
No.
They probably should be beating London most of the time. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah.
They probably should be playing at least to the mid-table. Like they should be at least 6th, 7th place, and definitely not like 9th.
Yeah.
So I would say they're a few positions below, but when you consider that two teams have overperformed in Mayhem and London, Washington being one of the unlucky ones dropping down, it is what it is. And the last person I want to talk about on this team is Pre, who ended up getting a lot of fucking shit as well. He ended up being caught in the crossfire. Now, it's, by the way, rare for a GM to get caught in the crossfire.
Yeah.
And because most GMs are just quiet, they don't say anything. Here's how you get caught in the crossfire. You'll notice before this as well, because, when Vancouver was shit in the bed, no one talked about Justin. And I'm not saying Justin is at fault, but, people look at Flubby and Pew, and no one even knew.
Yeah.
Half the people probably didn't even know who Justin is, but didn't even know who the GM of Vancouver was.
Yeah, because
no one
knew.
Yeah,
knew him, right? Like,
keep your head down.
Yes, that's the thing. Like,
how many people?
There's also another Texan GM.
Is? Who's
Speaking of Houston GMs,
how many people know who the Houston GM is? Very few people.
These days, yeah, very few. But maybe in seasons past, I don't know. Maybe a little bit different.
Most people don't even know who the GM of Shock is. They think Andy Miller's the GM. Sure. He's the owner. He's not the fucking GM. There's a real GM in there that does a GM job. That's not Andy Miller. Most people can't name that person.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
So how does this come back to Pre?
I mean,
normally, yeah.
Also, like just as a mechanism, you make people not want to share with you. There has not been a more transparent general manager.
Before you do that, let me finish my point because it does lead into what you were saying.
Right.
And it's a very quick point, which is to say that most GMs never get in the line of fire because they never reveal themselves. They're like fucking shadow puppeteers. They're the Illuminati. No one knows who the fuck they are. Pre was one of the few, in my mind, open GMs who actually did the thing that fans want from GMs, which is to be open, talk about your fucking team, talk about the good and the bad, and just be someone that is like transparent and communicates. Because otherwise, what you get is invisible GMs that don't say shit. You don't even know who the fuck they are. You don't even know their names. You even think the wrong person. The case of most Shock fans and most people that look at Shock, they don't even know they have a GM because they think Andy Miller's their GM, which is not true. So because Pre went out on a limb to try and be transparent and try and be open, which sometimes includes having to defend his staff because, you obviously he's going to know his staff better than the public does. That's just a given. And he's going to know the real issues. Like the public would be like, team lose equals coach bad, therefore fire supreme. Pre, why you know fire supreme is the average Redditor mentality. And then Pre's like, well, we're working it out. Can't tell you all the problems here. We don't want to air dirty laundry. As transparent as Pre was, man's not going to like fucking tank player reputations because, he's just going to try and do his job the best he can while telling what he can tell you. But unfortunately, having to hold what he can't tell you because there's going to be a lot of stuff that people can't say. And he got punished for being open because he put himself in the firing lines, because he stepped out of the line, put his name into the spotlight. He was transparent. People fucking targeted him. People fucking went at him. And as you're about to say, Yiska, what this means is everyone's going to look at the situation, and now, from now onwards, and you did this, community, you fucking did this, no GM is ever going to say shit again. No GM will ever communicate to you again. You're never going to know shit. You're not even going to know these GMs exist. There will be zero transparency. You will get no information, because when the GMs do this, it's a lose-lose situation. They put themselves in the fucking firing line and their jobs become at stake. So they're never going to do it again. You did this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if there was anyone ever, like, of those existing GMs thinking about doing that, no. And you might remember the tweet thread that Pre had. He said, like, everyone's just out for themselves. Yeah. Because if you're not, you're getting rolled over. Like, that's unfortunately that's the thing. Like, as so few become public faces or want to, it all concentrates on the few that are known, right? Like, you have too few pressure points. Like, others could stand in solidarity and could, like, be the one, like, if everyone had, like, a public-facing personality, then whatever happens generally would just be more distributed, the criticism, right? And, like, it's never been really that reasonable. Like, in my mind, having known, for instance, that, to me, the position that the Defiant are in the current season with their spending is worse than the Justice, right? Nobody ever
by comparison, Toronto are doing worse compared to budget than Washington are.
Yes,
is what you're saying.
Yes, not based on season records, because the Toronto Defiant is better, especially after last week. But, like, in terms of the budget and them just squeaking into mid-season, right? That's not acceptable for a top 5 budget roster in that region, right? So how are we... The reason this team is not getting shit is because the only people with power that were ever known to this team have been fired already. KDG's gone. So, because there's nobody standing out, there's nobody to attack, nobody talks about them.
Well, I mean, Adam Adamu's there, Grayson, but I'm not saying that people, again, I'm not saying people should attack him, but he has so far been the only GM that's been kind of immune to community, like, blowback.
I mean, also because he's more owner level, right? Like, I think people perceive him.
That's
more
probably true,
right? Like,
yeah, I think he's pretty high up. He is also pretty fucking high up. So it's like you couldn't really just go for his job. He's like he's a bit of a top dog in that organization. And again, I'm not saying people should be attacking him; they should not. But he's been fairly immune. I think the thing that pains me about Pre a lot is that people, again, have no fucking idea what GMs do. You don't. You think you do? You don't.
Yeah.
Tell me in the comments what you think a GM does.
Yeah.
You know, like, what do you think they fucking do? And there's going to be shit missing. The problem with me asking you that question is because I'm about to answer it, so it doesn't really matter what you say anymore because I'm about to answer it. And, you know, the answer's already been put out there, so you can't, you know, this is no longer a real question. Consider it to be a rhetorical question. So, you know, don't even bother really replying because I'm about to tell you. It comes back to like, team lose, GM bad. Team win, GM good. Same shit again.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about Pre. Not only was he transparent and open, he legitimately brought in a situation in a league that is not financially doing well. This guy's bringing sponsors to the fucking table. Look at the Washington Justice sponsors. of what they do have. A lot of those, Pre kind of work that shit. The beer sponsor, the coffee thing going on there as well. They had McDonald's at one point. I don't know if Pre was part of that. I know there was a decent amount that Pre was part of. He was, they set up fan things to get with the fans. Activations and activities. From like an organizational perspective, like that's actually what you want out of a GM. You want someone that can, like, at a business level, bring finances and bring business to your team. And really, at the end of the day, you pick your coaching staff and you sign off on your players. You trust your coaches to build a team. Some GMs are like a little bit more hands-on with the team building. Some of them are very hands-off, and the coaches are full control. I don't know exactly how it went down in Justice. But Pre was like one of the good dudes. He was a legitimately nice person who only wanted the best. Even on his exit, deleting everything on Twitter and just like canning his social media. His final words was like, it's haunting. It's like, I just want to. I'm like kind of paraphrasing here. But like essentially, he just wanted to see his players go to new homes if they could. He just wanted to help the players still have careers. And I've talked to him about situations where, like, they didn't want to be the team to just drop players. They were some, because here's the other thing people complain about, like, oh yeah, the Mayhem just dropped Adam, and then this guy got dropped, and then that guy got dropped, and then Myungbong got dropped, and these guys are just getting dropped, and these teams abusing these 30-day contracts and dropping these players, all these abusive teams. Guess what? Washington wasn't fucking one of them, and Pre had a very firm stance on not being that kind of team. He didn't want to drop. He really didn't want to drop players unless he really had to, because he knew that if he dropped a player, like in this transition year where Overwatch 2 is like not even accessible, you can't even like play it on ranked, you can't grind it, your career might be over. He was very concerned about his players' livelihoods, protecting his players in a game where other GMs and other teams are fucking ruthless bastards about it, right? Literally on a whim, like, yeah, that guy's cut. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Psycho's just gone. Shockwave's just gone. All these players just fucking gone, just deleted. Pre and the Washington Justice didn't want to be that. They wanted to protect their players and the livelihoods of their players and the staff as well. And the people that are like, well, Pre must be a bad GM because he's protecting Supreme, and Supreme is obviously the problem. Again, my position is that you don't know that. I'm not saying he's not the problem. I'm not saying 100% that he's not the problem. But I'm also not saying that he is. Let me, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to drop a fucking bit of juice on the podcast here. And I'm going to say this because no one else is ever going to say this. But for the people getting scared, I'm not actually naming, like, I'm not putting anyone under pressure here. No one's under fire here. And I'm not going to put out like specific names. But here's a piece of juice that no one knows about. There is at least one internal issue on the Washington Justice between two players that I'm aware of. At least one. That I'm aware of, 100%. I'm not going to tell you who it is. I can't speak more. It's not my story to tell. I'm not going to go further than that. But like, their entire staff is all gone. All the players are about to be fucking gone. Yes. At this point, what is it? At this point, I might as well give you at least that much. At this point, I might as well give you at least that much. But I can't say more than that. Which is why I'm so pissed when we be like, oh yeah, well, Supreme is definitely the problem. It's like, motherfucker, there are so many other problems that can happen. This guy isn't a psychologist. This guy isn't a fucking marriage counselor. If there are players beefing, what the fuck can he do? And by the way, these are two starting players. It's not even bench players. Two starters beefing. What can you do? Try and try and be a counselor. Just like, hey guys, kiss and make up, maybe shake hands. Maybe just punch it out like men and just, boys will be boys. Maybe just punch it out and be happy afterwards. What can you do? What I'm trying to say.
I think TSM tried that one.
There are so many like outside of game issues that can and will occur. Fucking look at Dallas. 2 years ago. I have a lot of respect for Dallas' team. 2 years ago, they're fucking they're public player beef. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, this shit can just happen. This shit will ruin your team.
Don't even bother going back to season 1 because that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
It's like people. This is why the whole like, oh, team lose, coach bad, GM bad. This is such a fucking mind-numbingly stupid assessment. Shut the fuck up. Please sit down. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. The thing is, like,
unplug your keyboard, motherfuckers.
I feel like even in the past, whenever someone tried to bring up that it also sometimes is the player's fault, they were always eaten alive.
No. And it's tough to just like try to convince everybody that like either their favorite player could be at fault, or like I think there is a safety from the community's perspective to like guard the laborers, right? I think that's very valid, and I think that's fair. But to say that they are never at fault, I think we need a correction. If we're talking about market corrections, I think we need to correct that one, because I think they get away with a lot that really can't be within good faith, or at least ethically said to the public, right? Like it's tough.
Here's a name of a retired player. Someone like Striker could absolutely fucking sabotage your team. Absolutely. Internally. That can and has happened. So like, I know there's a bunch of fucking foreheads out there, like, yeah, but he was on Shock and they won. It's like, come on, like, you don't know the stories. My point is like, there's like, and the teams are not going to air this shit, and they shouldn't. No. And I probably, again, my limit is just saying something could exist, and I'm not going to say who it is, because I'm not here to be a drama lord. This isn't, as much as I joke about like, oh yeah, Call of Duty, they should just fucking fight it out. It's like, I also respect the position of, especially from a guy like Pre. He's one of the few GMs that is willing to really protect his players. He would never,
and that's noble.
He would never get into that. He would never get. He would protect his players, even if there was a very problematic player on his team. I guarantee you, he would still release that player with as much dignity and PR protection as possible, as to not fuck over that guy's career. Because he cared, because he legitimately fucking cared. And you guys roasted him for that. You guys fucking burnt him at the stake. One of the few GMs that actually legitimately cared and was a legitimately good force in the league. You guys fucking burned him at the stake because you went on a witch hunt and you just wanted to see some motherfucker burn and you didn't care who. That's what I'm pissed about.
Yeah, I don't actually think anyone has a human in mind when they talk about that. Like, I feel like, and I hope like someone like in Pre's position, and like, unfortunately, yes, he's probably an outlier case, but like, it's definitely not the first time that shit like this has happened in the Overwatch League. I hope these people have the distance to realize that nobody's actually really criticizing them as people, because they are actually criticizing like a simulacrum, like an idea or like a manifestation of all the shit things that they think is happening in this team, and project it onto this one like very simplistic idea of what a dude is doing.
Yes, it's a role, not the person.
And yeah, I don't know, like, of course, like, we also have limited insights into what actually transpired, and like, like, things are just so vastly complex. Like, it's never as easy as a Disney movie, guys. Like, there's no Scar, like, there's no purely good and purely evil people.
True.
Like, everyone has a little rascal in themselves. And some have a bigger rascal in themselves.
Shut up. God, you've been fucking on that pun since 2017, and I'm over it, bud. You gotta stop with the rascal, the inner rascal, all right?
Yeah, no. An element of irreducible rascality.
That's the most, like, you thing you can
And just
say.
like, there's probably a non-zero amount of people that are also saying something like, oh, a GM and a coach's job is to make sure their team wins. It's like, bro, if that's what you think it's all about, then 19 out of 20 teams here should just fucking self-delete. They should all just self-terminate. 19 out of 20 teams should just they should all just leave. Because they're not winning. Only one team wins, guys. By the way, only one team can win. So unless you're the winning team, I guess everyone can just quit their jobs. Do you not know how sports work?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know.
You can't tell me like oh yeah, but you know their record is like they're like underperforming. What's their? I'm gonna grab the record right now. What is it? It's 8th place, 6-8. Yeah, okay, they're two games below even. Yeah, they lost to London. London again. It's nothing
London
against London. They did super well. Congrats to Chris Hardy and the rest of them. They fucking nailed it. Nuki nailed it. They all fucking nailed it. Right.
Oh, by the way, real talk. Like, good for this team that they, in the 11th hour of them playing together, like pulled off a game like against the Shock. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
They absolutely should have
Washington
won that
versus
one.
Shock.
Yeah, they should have won that game.
Yeah.
For a team that's like on the brink of self-destruction, there's no way they should have played Shock that close.
Yeah.
And so like I don't, again, when you really contextualize it, Washington is a mid-level spender. They're only just slightly below mid-level results, but somehow still manage to get sometimes very competitive. Yeah, can they lose games to London? Sure, but have you considered that maybe London is a fucking top 5 team? Is the London loss really that bad, considering that London are actually a kind of like a good team? Contextualize it for me, please. Like, what are the worst losses they had? What played matches? What do we got? They have lost to Mayhem a couple times. Boston, maybe you can consider those bad, but those are also competitive mid-table teams. I think it's not crazy that they trade games. It's not like they lost to a Paris or a Vancouver. That did not happen.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't think when you look at their win-loss record and who they play, I don't think it's crazy that their record is what it is. I don't think it's that crazy. So people seem to like unfairly target them for their record when, like, you know, you have an S tier spender in Toronto and in 6th place. Again, I'm not saying people should, like, oh, this is not a justification to just fucking start targeting Toronto now, but I'm just saying it's like a weird double standard. Like Washington just ended up being public enemy number 1 because like everyone was talking about it. And you know, and fair enough, I played the fucking clout game and I talked about them and made fun of them every now and then. But yeah, I feel like they got an unfair amount of slack, and you know, now that their team's about to die, it's like, you know, this is our final chance to. This is the eulogy to Washington. This is my half-hour eulogy to Washington. I just feel like, you know, there are people on this team that will never get to speak their truth, and so I'll do my best to at least speak a little bit about it, what I do know, what I can talk about, and that's it. Because I think, you know, there were some good people on this team that will probably, at the very minimum, not work in Overwatch again, maybe. And you know, some shitty fans out there might be celebrating and pissing on their grave, and fuck you, but you know, for being an absolute piece of shit for doing that. But yeah, I mean, if you are upset that the Washington Justice are losing, you have like 19 teams to be upset about.
I would feel especially terrible, and of course, like, theoretically speaking, there's still the worlds where, you know, some of the Justice players just stay with the org. I mean, presumably also because their salaries are already pretty low. And like someone like Opener, dude.
Sure.
Like, I find this
that guy's got a future.
And yeah, and then I look at the Justice YouTube channel, and there's literally the guy, and I click into the video, and it's like, he talks about how much he likes America, the architecture, and then he plays the cello. I'm sitting here, like, as if it's the Truman Show, and someone says, dial up, put more emotion. Yeah, a little bit more. He's about to cry. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. Like, these are the type of people that don't deserve to be in those situations that are currently transpiring. And I hope that this is a happy end for someone that came out of nowhere, overperformed expectations.
Yeah, overperformed. Like, overperformance.
Such a nice guy. Like, come on. Right? This is everyone's dream we're talking about here. That's going to die in approximately 32 hours. If this actually happens, you know. So, or maybe, I mean, maybe maybe something like gets
Maybe
figured
they
out,
off.
or
Yeah,
like
who knows?
for the next season, of course, like there's still a world where the next Overwatch League season hopefully starts a little bit quicker, and then people still consider them, or someone like Opener has the grind in himself, finds it to go back down to contenders, like someone like Anson J, and just comes
sure.
back. You know, like
Mhm.
I hope to see stories like this because man, this destroys me.
I just think
Makes
again,
sense.
this team was just unfairly targeted. Like they somehow New York got less hate than Justice this year. New York 2-12
True. Yeah.
with fucking Yaki on this team. Major fumbles across the board in their roster building. There was the whole Vulcan drama as well, and somehow with all of that, New York got less criticism than Justice. Explain that to me. And now we've also revealed that New York they're not a cheap spender. They're not. You think this is not a fucking 50K team? Okay, this is a team that spent some money on their roster too. This is a mid-level spender.
Yeah.
Both teams mid-level spenders. One of them 6 and 8. The other one's 2 and 12. But the 6 and 8 team is being fucking hung out to dry. I'm not saying people should go and attack New York, but there's a fucking double standard out there. There really is.
Yeah.
I'll say it. I think you should.
I think the difference here is that, like, the public is mad that they didn't get their blood sacrifice. Like every other team that somehow had
The fucking blood's flowing now. They fucking they're getting more than they bargained for in a blood sacrifice.
yeah. Because if you think about it, every other team that seemingly underperformed, Toronto let go of KDG, NYXL let go of Cookie, like that absolves you of all,
Eventually,
right? Yes.
even before they got let go of Kookie, this team never got as much hate as Justice. Not
Yeah.
even close.
Yeah.
And they performed way worse. And this is a team that like has a huge legacy. Again, I'm not.
That's
People
also
want to
true.
speak. This is not a justification for people to shit on New York. I'm not saying more people should shit on them. I'm saying less people should have shit on the Justice. But like New York, 2-time stage winners, one of the most beloved rosters.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this is Jonak's old team. Like, this is a huge historical team, one of the best teams historically. Now 2 and 12. Like, this team is getting less hate than the 6-8 team.
Yep.
3 flick supports, lol. Fucked up Myongbongs dropping, posted as fucking we won meme. Like, a couple of people are memeing on that now. Like, people aren't even upset about that anymore. It's a fucking community meme. It's a joke now. It's ha funny joke now. It's not even it's not even like a travesty anymore.
Yep.
This team gets to get away with anything. Holy shit, New York at this point could re-sign Vulcan and drop him again in 2 days, and people will be like, oh, it's the funny team, just did the funny thing again. No flack.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
That's kind of
better burn Justice at the stake. Am I right, fellas? Huh? Am I right?
I think I'm gonna be the weird one out. I'll be the pariah here. I do think that more teams need actually severe like pressure from the public, because it's not okay that teams are paying the amount of money that they are and are underperforming, or treating their players the way that they are. If
the public knew how much some of the Vancouver Titans players were being paid, to have them be well, they only 1-13 now, but to have them be completely winless for that long,
it's ridiculous,
bro.
It's nuts.
Yeah, oh my god,
it's nuts, and that's where I think even in the opposite, I do think that more teams need more public pressure. And I think the teams that overperform need a lot more public, praise. I think the Mayhem need a lot of praise, and I think they deserve a lot of praise. I think the London Spitfire, and I've said this before, are writing the blueprint on how to run a budget team. Period. The end. I'm sorry. It's not like it's not easy, but it doesn't shock me.
People giving Chengdu a free pass as well. The team that did so well last year, now fucking 5-7, barely holding it together.
Yeah.
Cutter Pritter. Come on, people letting this. And now Valiant's just, I guess, an old joke now. People don't even care about that anymore. You're about to have like 2 more Valiants. You're welcome. It's just like, all right, cool story, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think in general, like, it just annoys me that we are not like. It feels like we are much more frequently shit on bad teams than we like hype the ones that are seriously overperforming. Like, I was looking into my budget tier thread on Reddit. There were like two comments on London, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's isn't there like human nature
I
studies
thought
about how focus on bad things?
In my
so
mind,
about
I
good
was
things.
about like as I'm writing this, like my mind is like I'm writing a celebration of Christopher, and then nobody
Should
gave a
be.
fuck. Like they're 9-4. Like even for some miraculous reason, even Mayhem got more gas, even though they're at 7-7. You know, like
Sure.
I don't know.
I think either or, they deserve a lot of love. I think
With less
Houston.
They're winning
in
with
some
less
ways.
flexibility as well, which is the crazy
Yeah,
thing.
which
Like,
is nuts.
Yeah.
I think by the end of the season, if more GMs and more teams don't try to replicate and really like reverse engineer what London are doing, I think they need to be fired. I'm honest in saying that. Like, we have seen this. I think we saw this coming. I think we've seen it in action. And now if you're not going to like wake up and smell the roses to like what you can do on a budget and not just go, oh, but the money, and the money equals the wins, and the wins equals more money, and like vicious cycle. I'm sorry, you deserve to be fired.
Yeah.
I'm over the whole spend more money, get more wins,
Speaking
get
of,
better players.
Speaking of being over things now, I guess this is like the last time I ever really want to, at least for me personally, won't speak on behalf of anyone else, I ever really want to talk about the Washington Justice in depth, because I'm also tired of it now. I feel like like
Sure.
now, because like I mean, like, it's like, oh, why weren't I tired before? I don't know, maybe it took for all the blood to be spilled here, and just like
Mhm.
just seeing the devastation of what that team is,
Sure.
and actually having a little bit of a clue of like how things that actually operate on the team is just like, it is pretty heartbreaking. So yeah, believe it or not, I'm actually still being neutral here. Again, I'm not saying that this is a good team. At no point, people, because I know there's going to be some idiot out there is like, oh yeah, Avril Copium defending the Wash. This guy's a justice sympathizer. This guy's a justice apologizer. It's just like, yeah, no, I'm just being neutral here. I'm not saying they're a good team. I'm not saying they're winning the league. I'm not saying they're winning a stage. I'm not saying they're a top 5, top 6, or even top 7 team. I'm just saying, like, they're a mid-level team with mid-level results, with mid-level funding. I've said this multiple times. People don't seem to fucking get it. A mid-level team with mid-level results and mid-level funding, getting those results, that's expected. And before it's like, oh, but the talent is there. Yeah, there's plenty of teams where there's fucking talent and they're losing. This motherfucking, you look at Guangzhou Chargers, they had Krong and Choice of one, they were fucking losing. Chengdu have Leave last as MVP with Gaga and fucking Monk, and they're losing. Okay? Philadelphia win and lose games equally. They're capable of beating the Seoul Dynasty and getting reverse whipped by the Valley in the same week. Okay, this is Shanghai is getting fucking blown out of the midseason madness. Atlanta just lost twice this week. New York are fucking 2-12. Paris just blew up their roster. There's some of these teams have players like Glisters was a fucking. Why isn't he included? The talent is there. He's a talent.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't people include Yaki in that talent is there conversation? Is he not a talent? Because every time I call Yaki overrated, some motherfucker says to me, "Oh, you're hating on Yaki. He's so good." It's like, okay, but you don't talk about him in the same context of the talent being there. Clearly, you don't talk about him like that. You don't.
No.
Only applies to Washington for some reason. That's my problem. People being unfair. People having double standards. So yeah. That's the ode to Washington, my eulogy to Washington. They are dead now. The people I know on that team are all gone now. Whatever happens next is a completely new team. I have nothing to do with them, no relation at all. Don't know any of them. It'll just
Fresh restart.
And
see what happens.
For better or worse, my only request is I hope people at least give it the new roster a fair shake. As I will also equivalently say that about Paris, so I hope people give Paris a fair shake.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think expectations need to be set. I think depending on what Justice do, again, we don't know. As of recording this, we don't know what has happened to the Justice per the roster lock deadline. But we can speak about Paris. And I think expectations should be set.
By the way,
I think that they do have outs. And again, it's tough, but there's outs.
Contextually, looking at maps, this is important.
Sure.
Washington is they're 28-29 maps 1 versus maps lost. They're only -1.
-1.
Florida are 27-27. And then below
Strict.
that,
Yeah.
Boston, right below Washington, is 24-32. So it gets quite a lot worse after 28-29. Then when you get to New York, it's 18-39, 12-39 for Vancouver, 10-41 for Paris. That's officially the worst record in the league. That's even worse than both Vancouver and Paris are worse than Guangzhou, sitting at 8-34, which is -26.
Yep.
So Washington are like, they're like a 0.500 team, realistically speaking. When you look at maps, middle of the tier team. I don't know. Atlanta's 28-25 with only 1 more win than
Plus 3,
Washington
yeah.
regular season.
Just
I guess
nuts.
people
That's
say it's like, yeah, but Washington, Atlanta came third and they make deep tournament runs. But yeah, granted.
Yeah.
I don't hate that, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Given that being the case, you should probably be a little bit more upset that they're only 7th then. Yeah, and I'm just trying to like look at what is happening across the other teams and like
it's disproportional for sure.
And seeing how the disproportionate the hate is for one very specific team because they've been specifically targeted by everybody. But you know what? Now they can rest in peace. God, rest their fucking souls. The tombstone will forever read. We tried 0.500. I don't know.
Oh man.
All right, let's talk about games. Not a lot because we already spent 2 hours on drama.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's fair because it was like, you know, there was a lot of stuff that happened. I wanted to get some shit off my chest as well.
Of course.
Avril was being insufferable. I'm trying to speak from the heart. So I feel some type of way about it. I'm trying to speak from the heart. So, you know, there's a lot of personal emotion in there because I knew some of these people personally. I helped to get a job for somebody on this team as well. Like there's like someone close to me on this team that's probably losing their job too. So yeah, like this, like if it doesn't bother you that if the whole thing's fucking blowing up and everyone's losing their jobs and then there's motherfuckers out there celebrating people losing jobs, what kind of a fucked up human being are you? Seriously, look at yourself in the mirror.
Weird. That's a little.
Who wants to actually? You know what? I'll start with. No, actually, I won't. I've been talking for ages. Somebody else pick some games from some teams in the past week that you want to go over.
Can I toss up a more? I hate to bring up another large chunky subject that we could get into, but I'm going to toss this up to the class because we did kind of talk about it pre-show, the pre-podcast. Which one of these days we're going to have to like record some of these and like make people pay for them because they're kind of spicy. How do we feel about Junker Queen? We're 1 week in. Kind of crazy meta. How do we feel?
Dude, I'm whatever everyone in the public feels, I am that plus 1 extra month.
Yeah.
So I've already been casting this shit for a full month of contenders.
Yeah.
So I'm way more over it than everybody else is. If you are over it, I'm that level over it plus an extra month.
For sure. Let's go.
I'm just looking at life bars and wonder if they get twice as green.
Yiska is on bug watch because Junker Queen does have a weird bug where Commanding Shout does sometimes double cast or however it works. That I'm not entirely sure on the mechanics, but it ends up applying twice to her allies, but not her. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so like that
allies
can definitely
receive it twice as a bug.
Yeah, that's a little rough. Wish yeah, I don't know. That one's a hard one to have a read on.
Beat 200 green HP for free. Let's go.
Yeah.
Hashtag I'm not dying. You've just doubled your HP pool.
I feel like we need to rename this to like the green meta because I feel like with like Rally and B and Commanding Shout, like everybody's health bar is just green all the time.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what's up with the green comp? You know, like evergreen. Like why is everything goats, man? Fuck, I wish we were WoW.
Here's a problem with all the different names people come up with. None of it gives you as much clear-cut information right off the bat as Jotes does. Or just Junker Queen Goats. It tells you everything you need to know. Everything else gives you less information and or is harder to say. Jotes, 1 syllable, tells you everything you need to know.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm learning to like it. If I'm going to be completely honest, I know that's kind of a hot take, and I know that
Hashtag Stockholm syndrome.
I mean,
signs of Stockholm syndrome.
No, this is far beyond that. I think this is a sunk cost, if anything. I like Overwatch.
You are now in love with and defending your captor / abuser.
Pretty much.
That's the level you're at.
No, is it the most entertaining meta possible? No. Is it one of the worst metas that I've watched? No. At least for me. I can only speak on behalf of me.
I agree.
But I think there is something like really fun and like very easily dissected when you have like very rigid mirror composition metagames where both teams have the equivalent number of resources and they are applied in so many vastly different ways. And I think that's like really fascinating to go, okay, like where are the Sojourns positioned or who's playing a little bit of Ashe? Because there is a little bit of flexibility. We're seeing a little bit of Mei. We're seeing a little bit of Ashe. Mayhem has their weird like double flex look. Sometimes London plays the Rhine or whatever. But it's definitely not like up to the degree that I think like the Overwatch community would love it to be. But there is something kind of fun about, well, at least for me, kind of digging into like resource use and like where it's being used and how it's being used. So I don't know. That's kind of fun for me.
It's kitty goats. It's the child version of goats. A
little bit.
Like,
yeah.
Goats.
I agree.
Jokes is to goats what Valorant is to CS:GO.
Sure. I still think like I agree with Joe. It's like not the worst meta we've ever had. Like if you give me a pirate ship meta, I'm looking for the next bridge. Like
that's a little dark.
That shit is so ass. Like every meta there is bad. I personally hate every Torp meta. I hate every sim meta.
Ooh, a rush sim meta would be.
You guys are getting pedantic about the order of. Here's a reality situation. This is there's a 5 tiers. This is a D tier meta, and all the ship metas go in D tier, and you guys are arguing over what order they go in. When my perspective is, it's shit. They're all in the D tier. They're all bad.
Okay, that's a very fair take, and I will admit bias on that front. And I am the guy that's like, well, maybe the Justice are a playoff team. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't ranked them, and like, right. I'm gonna wave the flag there and go. You're right. I have not gone through and ranked every single meta. That's content that I'm now gonna think about doing.
Like debating,
because I don't know. It's hard to say.
Debating how bad the D tier metas are is to me such a pointless activity.
Sure.
When the reality is they are all fucking bad. Yeah. And they all belong in that same shit tier. So who cares what order they are in? Like,
see, I would argue that like a low C tier meta. It's not.
Yeah, this is watchable. I would say this is watchable for me.
You're the guy.
Me.
You're the guy that gets taken out of the sex dungeon for the first time in 20 years, and the police officer walks up to you, is like, "Are you? Do you know that person?" You're like, "Yes, I do, and I love them too." That's you. That's the level of Stockholm you're at.
Of course, I put myself in there and stayed for 20 years. Like, what?
Yep. We went there, given our consent, and we're like, yeah, no, we're in a committed relationship.
You both got kidnapped off the street, fucking bag over your head, straight into a van. You haven't seen sunlight in 20 years.
Look, there's no objective reality.
It's pretty dark.
You're so Stockholm syndrome.
Yes, but that's still a reality, The dopamine is still pumping, whatever. Like, yeah, but
I'll share in my frustration with you, Avril, on a completely like a flip side of the coin. I think we are not watching great Overwatch, and I'm excited to see what this turns into.
Very true.
It's just like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I already wasn't a fan of goats, but I could at least appreciate the strategic depth.
Sure,
this meta doesn't even have that.
No,
is my problem.
Yeah.
So at least we had something extra to bite into.
Yes.
For the real goats comp, this is just like, come on.
I think what also is true about this comp is it has a tendency to over exaggerate the shit parts of, like, let's say maps. If there's one more standoff between two teams like it was against Justice and Shock on Colosseo,
3 minutes.
Bro, That shit was unreal ass Overwatch. I never want to see this again.
I don't think that's well. Okay, I think that might be the game type and maybe some of the team, like the both teams.
I'm not
like,
saying the level of play was
theories.
ass. Even though I
Yes.
will say I talked to some of the coaches of the better teams, and everyone's like, "What are they doing? This is ass." but like it's not the type of experience I want to see where you have
No, of course.
a waiting room while like your soldiers try to load up their fucking rails so they can one-shot coin flip.
Yes.
Whoever gets the first picky pick wins the next fight. Like, come on, this is fucking brain dead.
Do you remember the London? Oh, who was it? It was London versus somebody in Goats, and it was on Oasis. What is it? The big drum map. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where it was just like the back and forth meatball Goats movement. Oh no, it's not on Oasis. I'm sorry, it's on Busan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sanctuary. You're talking about Sanctuary.
Yes, Sanctuary. Yes. There's a very like comical team fight where I think it's the first fight on Sanctuary. It's London versus somebody. Somebody in the comments, help me out here. And it's very similar. I don't think it goes for 3 minutes, but it is very much just like a standoff war of attrition, and like everybody is just loading rails, and it's the funniest shit. It's so, you know, Overwatch is like being like in a bad. Okay, let me rephrase this. You know, Overwatch is being played in a really poor fashion when like shit like that happens, where like teams have such poor neutral game that they're just like winging abilities and then just hiding, and then they're coming out and just winging more abilities and just hiding. Maybe that's what this just evolves into. I don't know, but we'll see.
It's
I'm in for the ride.
I feel like we were talking about the subject, so I'll keep this one brief. It's the same thing from last discussion that we had on Junker Queen, which is to say that the thing that I find most unhealthy about it is not that it exists. I'm okay with the existence of Jotes in a vacuum.
Sure.
I'm not okay with it being the only composition that gets played because it's so fucking
Fair.
good that nothing
Agreed.
else can exist.
Agreed.
Nothing else can exist. When you see this shit on Dorado and Gibraltar and Circuit, you know we are fucked.
Yeah.
Because those are maps where typically you would have had to have played other comps in other metas, and now it's just like, no, I just play Jotes there as well. It's like, okay, well, GG.
Yeah.
Guess we can go fuck ourselves then. Yeah, this is. It's not even just as boring, but it's like it takes all strategic depth of hero pools and map drafting strategy and map specific strategies, and like even taking advantage of map geometry type strategies. It just removes all of that out of the game entirely. Because it used to be that like, okay, well, for this, like, as again, I talked about this mid-season. We just came out of Mid-Season Madness where we're literally debating like, oh man, should Shock have gone to this map or that map, and the fucking 1 to 2% differences in here and then, and this player playing this, and is the Kaluge Diva really? And we went from talking about the specificity of playing a Diva on A and B of Eichenwalde, the 2 points of a map, specifically only on, I think, mostly defense as well, to then like being in a meta where none of just fucking throw all that out the door. We're only playing Jotes now. Like we were getting into the minutia of like specific signature picks on very specific parts of specific maps for a specific playstyle being highlighted. And that to me is peak Overwatch, because it really shows the level that you can get into in terms of depth to really come out ahead by squeezing through the tiny like couple of milliseconds on your Formula 1 car to try and get a better lap time. Right? We're really at the peak of what depth of strategy in Overwatch looks like in and out of game, because of like different macro strategy of like map drafting picks and all that kind of stuff for your team. To like none of that matters because you play the same comp on every single map. None of that matters anymore. That's my problem with Jotes ultimately.
Sure. Definitely think that it's a rigidity is never going to get any extra credit in my book for sure. Could agree there.
And we talked about this off pod, but like I also don't think there's a way to like quote unquote fix her that makes her viable without completely killing it. Because I think like, well, maybe there is a way. I don't want to be too conclusive about it. What I'm trying to say is like, I think the design of the hero means that you can't have her in a healthy state where she can just like exist in a vacuum and sometimes be playable, but isn't dominating better. Like she can't be a Ryan or a Winston or a Zarya that can just like somewhat exist in like these comps you play on these maps She, in my honest opinion, I think she is a binary hero that's either fucking broken or just shit.
Yes.
Because if her shout wasn't doing what it is now, she wouldn't be played at all.
She wouldn't be played. Yeah, she doesn't do anything.
I think her kit is too selfish. Doesn't help the team enough. It just doesn't, it doesn't provide the utility to the team that the other tanks would. And the only reason she can play because she's mega OP. And the other problem is when you do play around her, you have to build a composition around her that is mega sustain heavy, that's built to help the JQ succeed. And that's why you have this double main support, mega sustain, double AoE green HP meta, because that's what you got to do to have success in your Jungle Queen. And people are like, well, why aren't people playing Ana or Wrecking Ball? And all these heroes that you're naming have been tried.
Yeah.
And there's another thing I've said. It's like people like, maybe teams have like this, then haven't figured it out yet. Maybe they're just like, we need another week. We need another 2 weeks. Teams need to experiment and scrim, and they got to figure this out. It's like, bro, we've had over a month of this shit in Contenders where the teams have already been playing, and then the OWL teams are playing the exact same shit. You could not name me a single hero in the game that could justifiably beat this meta. Get the hero roster out, look across every hero, start naming them for me, and I will explain why that doesn't work. I will explain to you why that hero does not beat Jotes.
I agree in theory. I 100% agree.
I can prove it to you practically. It's not a theory to me. I can prove it to you.
I think we've seen this play out, and that's why I'm very interested to see how this case study plays against how GOATS played, because eventually we did see something emerge. Granted, we had a bigger sandbox to play with, to be fair. I have to, initially state that weakness. But I think there is a meta to the meta where there are some bad teams that will never get as good as like some of these good Junker GOATS teams that you can feast on doing dumb shit that theoretically should not work, but your team is so bad that it works anyways. Like, that's kind of, not to completely get ahead of ourselves, that's how I viewed how London was going to approach week 1. And it did not happen that way. And I have egg on my face.
If London can't reliably beat Junker Queen with Rein, we're doomed. That's it. And they already have it.
Yes, like they are.
That was the only hope. That was the only hope. I sent a DM to Hardy. I was like, bro,
please say it.
Please, Obi-Wan Hanobi, Haddadi, you are my only hope. Yeah. You are my only hope. Save us. Please beat Junker Queen with the Rein. And he responded, he's like, I will try. I'm like, that's all we can ask for. That's all we can ask for. Please try.
In that same way, to be fair, I think they're also learning how to play their style into Junker GOATS. And I think that, again, much like they were in Kickoff Clash and in Midseason Madness, more so Kickoff Clash, to be fair.
It's just,
I think they also have to learn, right?
Rein is just too Rein is just too passive compared to Junker Queen.
I agree.
You don't have the same damage output. You don't have the range. You don't have the initiation, because JQ can just knife some dickhead off on the other side and pull them in. As a Rein, you have to, unless you're getting a pin off the bat or you have a shatter, you can't win.
You're playing, you're doing more. You're having to work harder for your win. 100% trust and believe. I understand that. But there are some ass teams in this league that I think you can feast on doing things that should not be possible.
Oh, yeah.
Should not work.
I think if London played some bottom tier teams and just pulled the Rein out versus Junker Queen, London can win.
Yep.
But like on an equal level team,
it's tough.
You were having to do way too much on the Rein to try and win. So it's not. It's just unfortunately not as good as Junker Queen.
Agreed.
Wrecking Ball gets fucking feasted on by the JQ as well. Ana gets run over by the whole comp. Ana's too slow. Okay, if you land a Byronade, cool, but they can just disengage with speed boost. Two of the speed boosts, by the way. Take your pick. You can land a sleep dart. That will work for a little bit. Nano is just a worse ultimate than either Rally or Soundbearer currently. So
fair. Agreed.
Ana has no ability to survive or disengage or whatever. She just dies. So you can't play Ana.
I do appreciate we're shining a light on London here, doing some off meta stuff, which I think is fun. I do want to shine a light on Florida as well. I think their Midtown against Shock was interesting. I think they showed the double flex look against London, and I was like, this.
By the way, real quick, we are now moving into some actual game talk, which is going to end up being brief because we had a meta talk that I wasn't ready for, but we got there. We got there.
I think
Joe sprung a quick one on me. Let's go though.
Hey, I gotta test the waters.
Talk to me about Florida.
I'm interested to see how it plays, because I think when you rewatch their defense against Shock, like that could have been full holdable. That, you know, it wasn't completed. I think they showed not a weakness. I think a weakness speaks to an inherent flaw in the composition, which I agree with you. In you know, textbook, you look at like the pros and cons, and there's a lot more pros than there are cons. But when you put it in hands of humans that have error and, you know, poor communication skills, problems occur that they cannot execute the composition at 100%, whether or not you want to, you know, pull from LS's, you know, Pokemon badge theory, where you don't have enough fucking, your Charizard won't listen to you because you haven't completed the Elite Four Indigo, whatever. I like what Florida's trying. I think there are some things you can try, because again, much like goats, all the practice is just Junker Goats into Junker Goats. You're just practicing the mirror. Nobody's practicing something different. And if you have an idea that you can try to leverage maybe your player skills or maybe the depth of your roster, you look at Florida, you go, hey, what do we have to abuse? We've got 2 flex supports, Poggers. Let's try to use that. Let's try to make it work. And I think the Midtown is the best probably example that we have currently outside of maybe London.
What was the Midtown comp? What was the Midtown comp?
I think it was basically just Junker Goats with Onizen on defense specifically.
Okay.
And it's
what?
interesting.
Versus what?
I think Junker Goats with Sojourn. So Sojourn.
Both teams are running Sojourn.
Yes, effectively. Like one is just a
here's
lot.
What I've seen. Because here's what I've seen, and I know there's going to be people like, yeah, but what about the Fire and the Echo and this? So the Fire was being played in contenders because they were abusing a bug.
Yeah.
And Echo was being played to counter the Fire. If there's no Fire, there's no Echo. Echo is straight up worse. She is strictly worse than Genji in this current meta. Because Blade, believe it or not, Blade is more useful than Duplicate. Even though it sounds amazing to have 2 JQs, the amount of times I've casted and watched Echo get a Duplicate on a Jungle Queen and not get a fucking Rampage is way too many times. Why? Because Rampage is one of the hardest ultimates and longest ultimates to charge in the game. So long that even duplicated Jungle Queens can struggle to get the charge. Because you need to hit all these abilities. You actually have to land your axe. You have to like, you know, get in someone's face and do these things, and that can be hard to do in a meta where like there's actual CC, boops, whip shots, double speed boosts, all that good stuff. By the way, green HP, which you can't charge ultimates off of. Remember that, because that's something that people forget. There's the May that Dallas ran on Control Center. Cool. That's like a one map thing.
Yeah.
It's a very specific map. You are not running May every map. Okay, Doha runs Genji everywhere else. Well, I don't understand that. Some maybe can explain the Bastion thing to me. That seemed like maybe like a real. That seemed like a bit of cheese to me. That's not something that you can really. I don't think you can realistically run that all the time.
Not all the time, but I think when we have seen it, it's because of really, really close holds that I have been screaming. Yeah. Shout out if you know.
Didn't Backbone just come out with a Bastion?
Played it on He played Bastion on Dorado because they were close holding against point A attack.
Right.
Their Junker Queen was just stuck. You remember where like goats used to hold? Where like the EU like school of thought was like more fights equal, you know, better success rate. They were holding like extremely close to the spawn. They had the read on it, whether or not they scouted or maybe
inside the house.
Not in the house, but it was like adjacent to it on like the track of the payload, like in that area. And they had the read, they had the jump on them. They come out on Bastion and they just mow down Commanding Shout and they get rid of the Junker Queen straight away. That's that example. And then there was somebody on Circuit Royal. I think it was New York. I want to say it was either Dallas or New York in their game on Circuit Royal, where something very similar happens. I think it was Dallas, but they end up losing the fight anyways because the Bastion just doesn't like get the value it needs to. But like
Bastion long-term fails.
Yes. Oh, 100%.
It is so easy to knife a Bastion. His hitbox is crazy big. What else? We saw Ashe. Okay, I'll give you that. Ashe gets played, but to me, like Ashe is just like an alternative to Sojourn that doesn't really change the comp.
No,
the comp doesn't really. It still functions the same whether you play Ashe or Sojourn. So like, you haven't really done much there. But I will say like Ashe is obviously going to be better in Sojourn in certain cases where you're playing more mid to long range, which Sojourn does struggle on, especially with the nerf to the railgun. Bob is legitimately a good ultimate. I think Bob is a fantastic ultimate in this current meta.
Yes.
Dynamite obviously a good ability, but she still struggles on maps with a lot of flanks where she can't get well protected, and Sojourn has better horizontal and vertical mobility, and closer range maps where the railguns are more reliable shot, especially again with the nerfed railgun accuracy.
Yes.
So I can see why Ashe is getting played, but as Yiska was agreeing to, it doesn't change the archetype of the comp at all. So
no, it doesn't.
Ashe, Sojourn, they're interchangeable. It doesn't change anything for me.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think like even something like how he called it Somber Goats, like that was way more of a departure from Goats than Ashes from Sojourn.
That definitely shifted like the play style into something. You had a very, very different out. Whereas this one, I think it is a little different, but it's not like
what it is. This goes back to the JQ design where like you have to be playing specific archetypal, probably supports as the main target here to make this work. Because otherwise, you're just not min-maxing the hero properly.
It's just a little too synergistic with some of the things we have.
If you run anything that's not Lucio, Brig, and Genji, I think that those four, and then your 50 EPS, you can play this some other shit, depending on what's flavor of the month, right? Is Sojourn good? Is Ashe good? Whatever your flavor of the month hero is, you can just play there. But Genji, I actually think Genji is one of the most important heroes. Despite Jungle Queen getting the majority of the attention, what I notice is the teams with the better Genjis are the ones that will ultimately get the wins, because that is the biggest pop-off hero. The Genji players and the Genji hero is popping off harder than every other hero, especially compared to the Jungle Queen. And he just really benefits from that green HP and the extra speed boost.
You do love a green HP.
I've had him described to me as like a pseudo off tank in this meta, because he can peel for his team, he can get aggressive and execute targets. Dash reset, super safe hero, by the way, because you can get these kills, the dash out, or the deflect double jump wall climb just to get across geometry. It just bails you out of everything. Nothing beats deflect in this particular meta. And also Blade is just good. Like, it's just good because it also forces out one of the support ultimates, guaranteed. And so you're playing into a situation where, like, if either one of your Blade or your Rampage gets through unmitigated, you win. You win a fight. And a lot of supports like to play tempo ults as well. I'm seeing a lot of supports.
Yes, they do.
Tempo rally, tempo
they love
beat.
it.
They're not even trying to counter anything. They're just trying to tempo win. And I respect it. I respect that they're doing that, because I think there's timing windows where you win fights with that.
Correct. There are specific timing windows, as long as you're tracking your ults properly, where that can be successful. The issue that I'm having is that there are a lot of the times that doesn't seem like a check of the box being met. Yeah. It feels like we're just beat engaging, because what else do we have?
Let's, as we get ready to actually finish here, because we're reaching 3 hours. Let's just name it for me, because we're gonna look for a rap. Name a team for me that surprised you either positively or negatively from the first week. I will say, for me first, Glad's very negatively surprised, and that I thought this team would be. I think most people thought this team was going to be a lot better. Especially given the back line. But I mean, who do they play again? They played against Dallas. I don't think that's crazy. Houston's an interesting one, because Houston also lost to a team they also got lost to New York, so that was a crazy loss. I will say that at least Glad's lost 2-3, so I don't think this is a disaster for the Glads, but I think everyone expected them to just be dominant out of the gate. I think everyone expected the 2-0 start from Dallas to be the start that Gladiators would have.
Yeah. Agreed.
I will say surprising is Pred Team Avril. Because Pred Team Avril predicted Toronto to win against the Rain, and that actually happened. What the fuck?
That's credit where credit's due.
Dude, how is the Rain?
They didn't just win. They kind of slapped.
I got the Mayhem London game as well. I got the Boston Atlanta game as well.
When
my 3 Nostradamus picks that I have.
When I pred London, I hope they'd learn that maybe Sombra isn't a good hero anymore. But I'm correctly predicted against once again. What can I say?
Dude, that the Rain loses that one of those matches is already fucking ridiculous to me. That they lost both.
I predicted both. And I predicted both.
Yeah, that's insane. That is insane.
That's rough. If there's not a soft reset in terms of experience, it's a good enough team to.
Well, I
prove you
felt like Boston and Toronto were coming on big upswings, especially Toronto. Actually, I think their team is built pretty well for this meta.
Yeah.
I didn't think it
and-
was this well though. Like you would, yeah. I don't know. Like we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see.
I think I got a
I
little
think
bit
they are
lucky with the. I think I got a little bit lucky with the Boston Atlanta one because then Boston did just lose to London straight away.
Yeah.
And didn't look pretty either. So, but I did feel good about the Toronto Atlanta. I felt like that was a real strong likelihood of happening.
Okay.
But I wasn't that sure about Boston Atlanta. That ended up being pretty RNG lucky for me. I think Atlanta could have won that game on paper. So,
Dude,
yeah.
I'm not sure. Like, let me look at this. But like, at what point do we consider the perfect season a narrative?
For a shock.
For shock.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it should be a narrative already, right?
Hang on. Shock still have New York. Shock will lose to New York. Boom, done. No, but the real team. No, but they have two teams coming up that are scary. Glads, who again, people were down on the Glads, but you have to remember, the Glads only lost 2-3.
Right.
Glads, who could realistically make a pretty big bounce back, and they have Dallas as well, which is looking like maybe one of, if not the strongest team in this meta.
Yeah. I mean, there's 10,
Yeah.
10 games left in the regular season, right? Like it's not over, but like, man.
It's impressive.
That would be an unbelievable feat to achieve a perfect season,
Yeah.
regular season.
Yeah.
Because even in the peak of GOATs, even in 2020 or 2019 rather, they were 23-5. They still lost 5 games over the course of the entire season.
2019?
They still had, yeah,
Well, Vancouver
still had
existed
some
that season too, so
exactly. And even then, Vancouver didn't complete a flawless stage. I think the
because Shock was
flawless
there, because my point
Yes.
is there's two teams very closely competing,
Agreed.
so it'd be very hard for either of them to get a perfect stage.
And that's why I think it's so interesting to like maybe we're halfway through and they still haven't lost. It's impressive even with that standing.
Would you say that would you say that we're halfway there and that they're living on a prayer?
I don't know if they're living on a prayer. They look
Okay.
kind of nice. They look pretty good.
They do look kind of nice.
Who
They are
sings
kinda
that
nice.
again?
I can't tell you.
Who's what?
Who sings that again?
Is that Bon Jovi? Aerosmith? I don't
Bon
know.
Jovi. Come on, what?
Yeah.
Also not
let's
living
keep
on a
it that way.
prayer. Bon Jovi.
Okay.
That was
Behind the
lame,
curtain,
Yiska.
fans.
That was lame.
Yiska is the most hackiest fucking like pseudo comedian you will ever meet. Don't ever tell him a joke because he'll just try to leverage it against you in like really poor fashions. That being said,
Yiska thinks me stating and reading out lyrics is singing.
yeah.
This guy
You
doesn't
rapped
understand
it?
the difference between reading
You
and singing.
rapped it?
I didn't even rap it. I didn't even rap it.
Yeah. It was
Even,
slam
even
poetry,
if I did,
right?
even if
Yeah.
I did rap it, that's still not singing. So I don't know what your comment is about.
Yeah.
Yeah, slam poetry at best.
Look, it's part of
Let's-
the comedic effect towards Joe that his shit joke is just like used in a completely erroneous manner as to, show
Okay.
him the errors of his ways.
Right.
I don't know if
I've
you
seen
all. I don't know if you all answer the question, but we're moving on anyway.
Yes.
I want you both to. This is the final thing we'll talk about today. I want you both to name a match from next week that you think
Okay.
is important, or that you're looking forward to, or that
Ooh.
you think people should keep an eye on. For
I know
me,
mine.
For me, I might end up stealing yours.
Yeah,
New
you
York
might.
versus Vancouver.
No.
Did I steal yours?
No.
I didn't steal yours. Okay, I got New York versus Vancouver because I think like both teams are looking at upswings this meta,
Sure.
but only
Yeah.
one of them can win, and it's also a big test for Vancouver. It's like, okay, well, you have two back-to-back teams that are close to you in standings. You beat Paris. Can you beat New York, or is the Paris just like, was that just going to be your one? Are you going 1-23, or you going to win another game? Is the question.
They look
For New York as
competitive,
well.
too.
New York as well. It's like, okay, you won a game. You beat Houston.
Mhm.
Is that just a fluke,
Props to you.
or what's going on here?
Yeah. They look good. I mean, they go close with Dallas too. Like that was a watchable game. Like that was not like a sleepy Overwatch. That was not
What's
bye week
your-
Overwatch.
What's your game?
I think we opened the week with a potential banger.
Okay, there you
I'm
go.
soul reading that the Guangzhou Charge are going to go 3-2 against the Shanghai Dragons.
Jesus
You're going to
Christ.
say that I thought
Yes.
you said Banger. I was like, oh yeah, Seoul and Hangzhou do play each other. And then you said Shanghai. Guangzhou.
I
was
mean,
like,
yes, that's going to be a good game, but like the one unabashedly looking forward to, bias here that a couple shows back that I said that Charge with the moves that they've made are a top 4 team in APAC. I think it starts now. I think it's Charge season, and I think they beat the Dragons.
I'd be a lot more confident about the Charge if UPA, Ultra Prime Academy, which half this Charge
We're
team
any
now comes
good.
from, didn't shit the bed.
Right. No,
At least Jimmy's good. At least Jimmy's
Jimmy
good.
is good.
He
Jimmy
actually
is
is
good.
good. All the people that are like, oh man, Apruda's finally got a debut is like,
No,
yeah,
unlucky.
I think you'll find that Apruda's been benched for Jimmy for good reason.
Which
Jimmy
is crazy.
Jimmy is legitimately better than Apruda in this meta.
Yeah.
I don't know how, I don't know why, but he is.
Yeah.
Jimmy's back and he's
this
ready
makes
to
me
fuck.
so sad. Did
It
Aprida
shouldn't make
not-
you sad. It should be. It's a good thing.
No,
I tell you
it's
why,
not.
Yiska, because all they're playing is Sojin. And Jimmy's just the better Sojin player.
Okay.
It doesn't mean
Yes.
Apruda's a bad player. I think if we were an Ash meta, a Widow meta, or a Tracer meta,
Tracer for sure. Come
Apruda
on.
would play. Jimmy wouldn't play, Apruda would play. But because we're in a strictly Sojin meta, Jimmy's playing. And he's better.
Sure.
That's what it is.
Sure. Yeah.
Yiska, what you got? Give me a game.
There's two. There's two actually.
Oh, he's cheating.
Oh, you
so-
can't. You're
Okay,
the
I'm-
worst
okay,
at
okay,
reading
okay,
instructions.
I'll give it to him.
Then I'm picking. Then I'm picking one.
I'm giving him 2. We'll give you 2.
I'm actually going to go exactly the other side of the schedule. I'm going Toronto Gladiators. So
Mm.
not only is this practically like if Toronto wins this, they're making their own homestand
For sure,
very
yeah.
likely. It's
Mhm.
also like, can Gladiators now come back into this meta? How can Reiner look? Like, what is the hit scan situation like? Because let's be honest, like, that's not a
You didn't love shoe scan? Come on.
yeah.
God.
The fuck is that about?
Yeah.
No, shout out shoe
I
scan.
can't keep playing that.
Big shout out shoe scan.
By the way, the people that are like, oh, maybe he's got better shot calling, it's like, yeah, that's why they only play him on one map and sub him out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice logic
Dude,
there.
Never see him ever again.
I'm gonna be honest. Whoever shat into people's collective brains about shot calling, like, did a disservice to this scene, unlike anything else before. Like the idea that it's just like that this one dude just commands comms and like
Yeah, that just doesn't make
Yeah.
sense anymore.
Shu
unfortunately.
Shu leaves the lobby and the gladiator's like, what do we do, guys? I don't know how to play the game anymore. Oh, what would Shu do? Oh,
Is
where's
he-
Shu? He needs to shot call for us. Like,
Just
come
become
on.
Mickey Mouse.
Come on.
is he just like a modern day Shakespeare who in a foreign language speaks in golden tongues to his American teammates, explaining in incredible intricacies how to play this meta, hence why his like I will even give him average hit scan talent is tenable in a top tier team. No, that's not happening. There's some very
course.
obviously something else happening here.
Yeah, he's speaking in iambic pentameter. Of course, that's the other thing that's
Yeah,
happening.
yeah.
Everybody
I do
understands.
find it weird that Arns isn't just playing the Sojourn across the board and why they even ran
Yes,
Shu
it
in
is
the
odd.
first place.
That is.
So
that-
I respect that people are trying to figure that shit out, but I
Yeah.
guarantee you it's got nothing to do with shot calling.
No.
All right, what's the other game? Give me the other game.
Oh, you want me to? Oh, the other game was,
Yeah, you said
of
you had
course.
to.
Yeah, I mean, the other game is, of course, Shock Lads, right? Like,
Yeah.
once again, like, two big teams. Of course, like it feels a little bit cheaper because Lads didn't look that good. I wouldn't count them out. I would hope that this.
Oh, dude.
I think Wake
You
2 is going to
know-
have a big level up.
You know what the biggest big dick play that could happen here is
Oh.
Shock just 3-0 Glads and Proper's like, yeah, fuck you for anyone that thought I wasn't the MVP. I'm the only MVP, motherfuckers, and he just destroys Gladiators. That would be the most big dick thing that could happen in that game.
Yeah.
Proper just comes out in pounds. That'd be fucking crazy.
Hits him with a Reiner tweet. Hits him with a
And then,
Patty.
what's interesting about Shock as well is I thought maybe they would do Proper Sojin, Sam Genji, but
Sure.
they're doing the Kilo Sojin and Proper Genji, and I think part of it is that, as I was saying, you know, Genji might be the most important hero in this
Sure.
meta, and so kind of you want your best player on there. So it makes a lot of sense that Proper is the guy on that because like you know, what's the most, at least from my opinion, what is the most important hero and who's your best player? Well, put two and two together. There's proper on Genji. Makes sense.
Pretty simple.
I don't think Glads, if Glads keep running this like Shujo and stuff, I don't know if I trust Glads to pull it through. Personally,
No.
looking pretty rough out there. I'm gonna cheat a little bit here and say the way spicy game is Washington, Florida, because now it's all, first of all, Mag's gone. Second of all, it's all now like pretty apparent even for the players that they're all getting dropped. Whereas before, apparently, like they didn't know. Now they fucking know. What does this game look like? Are they just going to walk in and be tragic because everyone's too depressed? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I also wouldn't blame them. But I got...
Who knows who plays? Who knows? Right.
Just Team Peps show up on the server? Do you think it's funny? It's that rumor, by the way. Do you think it's funny that like the French team has gone full NA and the NA team, Washington, DC, by the way, the NA team's going French? That's quite ironic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if that's true, right? But yeah.
Yeah. If Peps is being picked up.
Yeah.
That's the rumor. Cool.
Yeah, keep in mind,
All right.
whoever is playing this weekend is locked into this team in the Overwatch League, and you will never see them this season on another Overwatch League team.
After the deadline, yeah.
Yeah. And the
Well,
deadline
they have
ends
to get
bef-
dropped today. For us, basically, they have to get dropped today, right? Or tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's like 31 hours from time of our recording. There will probably still be a couple of hours left by the time this one is uploaded, but basically, if you see a player on a server tomorrow, the deadline has on match day, the deadline has passed, and they are locked in for the season and will not be able to play in another Overwatch League team in 2022.
Which means if they get dropped for Team Peps, their season's over. All right.
Yeah.
Speaking of over, thanks for hanging out. If you watched until now, you're a real one. You get a special shout out from me and you can pat yourself on the back. And hope you enjoyed. This was a lengthy one, but I think a lot of stuff needed to be said here. And really looking forward to the games coming up because I finally get to cast again, thank God. But sadly, it will be casting more Junker Goats, which I'm not happy about. But oh well, just accept my fate. 257, bouncing out. See you next time for 258. Goodbye.
Peace.